So today we're going to be talking about one of the most popular characters in the Sonic franchise, the pinnacle of love, Amy Rose. If you don't know who Amy Rose is, she is one of the very well-known characters in the Sonic franchise. Yeah, we're doing this line again, baby. Let's go! With Amy, she's a character who's been around for a while now, and she's kind of got some controversy going on. So I wanted to kind of take this video to try and talk about Amy as a character and kind of try to get people to appreciate her more than they actually do. So for this video, I'm going to do it in the style of Fukuda Hoseki, because like Fukuda Hoseki, Amy and Fukuda Hoseki have kind of gotten bashed for being very caring about the character of Sonic in a lot of ways, and that causes people to call them weird and different stuff like that, and kind of bully them on the internet and kind of treat them unfairly. So I made this video so I can talk about both of these people at the same time. Not exactly Fukuda Hoseki, but I'm editing in her style from what I remember, because her channel is sadly gone. She kind of passed away in YouTube, not like in general real life. I don't know. I think she's fine. But overall, I did want to do this in the style of Amy because I think that Amy is a character all about love, and she represents so much with love that we could really have in our hearts for these characters and just in general. So why not do it for Fukuda Hoseki and kind of give her a little bit of appreciation for what she's done for the Sonic community? Because she was the person who actually did get me into the idea of Sonic being introverted, and I stick to it to the end of this day. No matter how many videos try to say that, oh, it's not true and I have this bullshit answer, doesn't make any sense, I don't care, he's still introverted, fuck you. So without further ado, let's get into the character of Amy Rose. Amy Rose described as a girl in love with love who is full of energy and in constant pursuit of Sonic, which is pretty much obvious. Amy's character is based around the ideas of love, which we'll go in later, where she's a very caring character, where she takes care of Birdie and she takes care of different characters just around the entire series, kind of trying to be the more caring kind of little sister, or a very caring character if anything. And of course she chases Sonic, but we'll talk about that later on in another part of the video. It also says in her character that she's actually very fashion sensitive, and if you ask me as a straight male on the internet, I can agree because, you know, I'm a dude. It also describes Amy as being a girl who doesn't wait, which makes sense because we see in Amy in every adventure, she's either the girl trying to get everyone to hurry up and go on, let's do this adventure, let's do this thing, let me help you out, and she's clearly always hastily trying to get into it. As you can see from Sonic 06, she does this with Silver, where Silver's trying to look for someone and Amy's like, I'm looking for someone too, let's go look for this person. Or how she sees with Elise has this crush on Sonic, but she doesn't know, but she also has a crush on Sonic, but she also ups her up like, come on, let me show you and then let's talk about boys and different stuff like that. She does that because she's a very kind of impatient person in a kind of way, and she kind of hastily goes into it. It goes into that idea of her being a little girl where she's kind of oh so cheery and kind of encourages everyone in any way she can, and it makes sense for Amy as a character. It also describes that Amy is a mood lifter, a butt kicker, and a go-getter for Sonic and his friends, which makes sense because Amy is one of the most positive characters in the entire Sonic series, and I'm not lying to you on that. Amy is a character who's always trying to pep everyone up, like I said earlier with Sonic 06, or you can see even in Sonic Rush where Amy tries to comfort Blaze but also kind of pepper her up to kind of understand what's happening here. Amy is a high mood lifter because she tries to lift up everyone's mood no matter what and tries to be the positive character for everyone involved. It is described here that Amy is a butt kicker also, which is kind of debatable because Amy in Sonic Adventure was kind of supposed to be a normal girl, but this is Amy from the manual of Sonic Heroes where they kind of changed that a little bit, kind of retconning it a little bit, but we'll talk about this later on when we get into Amy's character video a little bit more. It's also described of course that Amy is a go-getter for Sonic and his friends, which makes sense because we see in Sonic Heroes Amy is clearly the go-getter who's trying to get them to go and save Chocola and Froggy. And of course she chases Sonic, but again we'll go into that a little bit more later. It also says that Amy is undeterred by adversity, which makes sense as we see E100 Alpha chasing Amy throughout the entire game of SA1. Amy is running away, but she's also keeping her dedication to helping out Birdie no matter what happens. We can even see in Sonic Unleashed where the entire world is messed up and Amy is there still being cheerful, cheering for Sonic no matter what's happening, even in the worst situations ever. It also describes Amy as being a doer, which means she does things by acting instead of thinking things through, which makes sense as we see Amy is already charging in without actually having a plan going into it, which is actually kind of weird if you look at IDW where Amy's kind of this Nick Fury kind of character where she's making plans and telling everyone what to do and she's being this big strategist, which has never really been Amy at all, and I find it very weird for her character overall. It is also described that Amy has a sharp instinct, which makes sense because the ideas of instinct is kind of the idea that it's something that you usually do in response to certain stimuli, which kind of makes you do certain actions. And it makes sense that Amy is kind of this person who kind of enjoys adventuring, because even later on she's described as a tomboy, which kind of goes into this idea where she likes doing things that boys like to do, and it kind of is this instinct that just pops in her and kind of makes her does what she does. This instinct even causes her to kind of take over the idea of caring for people even when they don't want to be cared for, like I said previously with Sonic Rush, where she's telling Blaze that you clearly need help and you should actually take it, but Blaze kind of ignores it, but she kind of pushes onto it a little bit, kind of doubting her and trying to push her to do it. That's just kind of what Amy is. She's kind of this girl who pushes you to do what you need to do due to like how she feels and the instinct of it. Almost like she's doing what she feels is right. And like Sonic, I don't know, we'll talk about that later maybe, I don't know. It's also described that Amy has a pure heart. If you don't know what a pure heart is, it is usually described as someone who is sincere, honest, and free from malice or bad intentions, which makes sense because Amy is a good character overall and isn't really a bad guy in any way, and nothing she does is really made with malice or any real bad intention, unlike a lot of Sonic fans who kind of see her as a stalker and kind of a person who's kind of this bad weirdo who does weird things to Sonic and blah 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 blah. And you can even see it in a bunch of animations where they do this to Amy.
Oh, come on! You said cute couples getting free!
Access denied!
Excuse us. Welcome to Twinkle Park, cute couple.
They're a cute couple? Come on!
Access denied!
But Amy's just an innocent, kind, good little girl, and people kind of take that pure of heart idea and kind of ignore it to make Amy seem like this weirdo stalker who's a grown-ass woman who's chasing Sonic for no reason. It's very weird, and I don't want to really talk about it much here, but it's a weird thing that people do when they try to mischaracterize Amy. I just wanted to bring it up. And of course you see it in characters like Goku, who is also pure of heart. He has clearly real innocent intentions here, so it's kind of the same thing here with Amy, but she's more of a normal city girl who has that kind of intention with her. Or if we want another character for reference, we have Flash Gordon. Yeah, I know most of y'all don't know who that is because that's an old superhero kind of comic book character that y'all don't know anything about. I know Queen made a song about it for a movie, so y'all kind of maybe got it from that if you're a Queen fan like I am, but I don't know. I just wanted to put that in there. As I also described earlier, Amy is also described as being a tomboyish kind of character because she kind of takes these ideas of what Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles does and kind of becomes that character who does do the things that boys does a lot of the time, and it kind of makes her a little bit different from other female characters because she has that very tomboyish intent like a lot of anime girls, where they feel very girly a lot of times, but also at certain points they get very angry or very rough like a boy, and that kind of shows through Amy, especially when you see her throughout most of the series and throughout the classic games originally where it came from. It also describes Amy as being this easygoing character, which makes sense as we see her in Sonic Heroes as she's chilling and just relaxing, as we could also see in Sonic X where she takes the gang out to the beach and she tries to take out Sonic and Sonic X to go see this beautiful forest which has everything so beautiful and we can have our date and everything. Amy is a very easygoing character who can have fun and enjoy stuff when she can. It's even also shown in Sonic X where her and Chris go out with the rest of the gang to go and have dinner in the city for the first time since they can be seen visually, but of course that gets interrupted by stuff that happens in the episode, which I won't tell you right now. It is described in one of the manuals that Amy is a girl into mystical things and fortune telling, which makes sense as we always talk about the cards in the Sonic series, but it also says that she's into dowsing, which makes sense as a person who isn't just into card reading as Ian Flynn tries to make it. She's into a lot of mystical things in general, like different stuff like that that can be used for magical mystical things. And in the context of Sonic's world, obviously it is a totally normal thing and there's nothing different about it. Just like in Japan, how it's a very normal thing for girls to have in Japan, just casually. They're never really seen as super weird. They can be at times, but it's mostly seen as normal. And it's even described in Sonic CD that she comes to Little Planet by the divine message of the cards, where she has a fateful encounter with Sonic for the first time. So a character, at least throughout most of the series, was supposed to be encoded in this idea of mystical ideas with Amy. She's also described in the manuals as being called Rosie the Rascal, but her true name is actually Amy Rose, which is weird because this is actually never used again in the Sonic series pretty much going forward. Maybe it's in IDW somewhere if I don't remember correctly, but I know it's probably there, but I know it's not there for at least most of the games. Also with Amy as a character, Amy is a character who can read people very well. If you look at games like Sonic Rush, like I said previously, with Amy and Blaze, she kind of reads Blaze so easily and kind of understands what she's going through even without knowing her for very long. And you can also even see it in a scene in Sonic X where Amy is literally walking towards Knuckles after he was tricked by Eggman, and she talks about how embarrassed he was and how sorry he was for what he did, but he doesn't want to say it because he has a big ego, whatever, and Knuckles has to tell her to shut up. Amy has this interesting thing where she can read people, even Sonic himself, where she talks about how Sonic is very shy and he's very awkward around me. It's okay, I know it's you, Sonic, because she actually does know how Sonic really is. So kind of the idea with Amy and Sonic is that she kind of sees who Sonic is really for who he is, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It's even shown with Amy and Elise, of course, where Amy is seeing how Elise feels and she's kind of having a crush and she kind of relates, so she tries to talk to her like a normal girl, which is kind of a weird thing in 06, but we're not talking about that right now. And she kind of tries to relate to Elise and also try to connect with her on a deeper level. Amy is also the type of character to defend no one no matter what's happening, of course if they're not being an idiot, like how Amy defends Knuckles in Sonic Chronicles about how Knuckles is a great protector of the Master Emerald and blah 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 blah, but she also defends Sonic and she defends her own ideas too when Cream tries to call her out. Maybe Sonic doesn't want to be around you. Amy's like, what did you say? And she's like, oh, nothing, and then it kind of just makes the joke kind of funny where Amy's like kind of protective about who she is and kind of pissed off a little bit on it. Of course, as we know about Amy, Amy's the type of girl who wants to go on adventures and see the world and have so much fun because of that tomboyish idea and because she's inspired by Sonic. After the events of Sonic CD, she kind of gets inspired by Sonic to want to go on adventures and be her own type of hero and do things for herself just like Sonic does, and she kind of fawns over it and then kind of pushes her ideas with Sonic a little bit. Also, another thing about Amy kind of has a short temper. As we see in characters already like Sonic and Knuckles and now Amy, all three of them seem to have a very short temper for some reason, and I kind of like that, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But with Amy, she does usually have a short temper at times where she starts screaming if someone insults her or insults her relationship with Sonic or insults one of her friends. She can get very angry or even get pissed off. But a lot of people kind of take this in a weird way where they think Amy is just this overly angry girl who hates everything for no general reason and is just a giant asshole or just a giant jerk screaming at people because she wants to, because she's a girl and she can do what she wants, and we want to just make this crazy girl who's just all crazy. But no, most of the time when she actually screams at people or really gets very angry, it's only because people are trying to mess with her in a way that is justified in any type of way for anyone to happen to. Just like how in Sonic X where Eggman is kind of making fun of Amy about how Sonic is gone and Sonic's never coming back and how you suck and how y'all are not a real couple and how y'all suck all this stuff and blah 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 blah. Amy gets pissed off and starts trying to attack him. Or people try to bring up the idea in Sonic Riders where Amy tries to attack Sonic with the hammer, but Amy is totally justified in that. If I was to get into that situation, I would too. Because what happens in Sonic Riders is that when Sonic is saving Amy, he generally just launches her and Eggman up into the air with no actual thought of what was happening. As we know, Sonic is a person who doesn't really think these things through, so that situation then leads to Amy getting pissed off and beating him up because she just tossed him in the fucking air just to be dropped down on her butt just so Sonic could have saved the day, and then he just ignores her for most of that part.
待て、そこまでだ。待て、これを見ろ。それでいい。良いか、そのままじっとしてるんじゃぞ。今だ。この風が見切れるかな。何？どこだ？ I'm here. さてと、俺たちは行くとするか。テイルス？
ソニック。
エミ。
ひどいじゃない。私がいたのに突っ込んでくるなんて。
いや、エミだったら大丈夫かなって思って。
ソニック、待ちなさいよ。待ちなさいったら、もう。ソニック、コートばかりは許さないんだから。
Amy only gets angry in situations as it is insulting her or putting her in more danger when it is not needed. or just in general if she gets insulted at all, because it makes sense for anyone, girl, boy, anyone, if they get insulted, they're just going to get angry at someone no matter what's happening. Some people will take it out in different ways, but she's allowed to show her emotions.
僕は電源を探して壊すから、ソニックは制御室を探して。
で、機械が停止している間にこいつをすり替えてくるって寸法か。
もうどうしてか弱い乙女をほったらかしにするのよ。
ビジネスライクに行こうではないか、ソニック。
I would say there are times in IDW, at least in the writer's arc, where it gets kind of weird when Amy starts screaming at people. Like how she starts screaming at Tails for no reason because she got scared by a hand which had nothing to do with Tails at all. And how she also kind of gets angry, tries to attack this person who just kind of scares her a little bit by popping around the corner looking for them. It makes her seem like she's so irrational in these tense moments when Amy would never really be that way. Either she would get scared like anyone normally, or she would at least be a little cautious, but not like looking super angry like I need to beat you up or nothing like that. I would say there's also times where Amy does get angry at stuff like people maybe looking for Sonic in a more flirtatious way, but that's mostly just done in Sonic Rush as kind of a joke, and it's not really anything too exaggerated or anything like that. But if you look at stuff like Sonic 06, again, she's clearly okay with the idea of someone else liking Sonic, even if she is kind of dismissive about it. Also, another thing about Amy that I thought was really interesting, and in correlation to another character we may get into later, Amy hates boredom, and she's kind of a character who's kind of bored in being in this normal city girl life and yearns for being an adventurer, as she does continuously throughout every other game. But there are times where she can be very adventurous and will go out to find those adventures, especially when those adventures lead her towards Sonic. Now that we got through most of Amy's character, I kind of want to show the new separation for this character of Amy and how we're going to separate them for the rest of this kind of characterization video. I'm not going to say much different on this opinion, but it's mostly just going to be them splitting it between two characters for Amy. Most of them are mostly the same with just small different changes. After we went through all of that, that mostly represents what's going into this different characterization of Amy, which is we have the Mega Drive Amy and we also have the Sonic X Amy. I am now calling every character from now on in the classic era Mega Drive era, or just Mega Amy or Mega Sonic or Mega Knuckles or Mega Tails, because it makes more sense and it kind of represents their characters way better than being the classic like they're old and vintage. No, this is the same characterization that they used since the classics and they use it all the way until now. But the opposite one is Sonic X Amy, which there's pretty much not much very different from Amy in the games. It's just more that she's kind of a little bit more obsessed with Sonic than she usually is in the games, and she acts a little bit more girly than usual, kind of like baking, wearing all these dresses, trying to be a very pretty, outstanding, showing off who she is as a girl and stuff like that. Unlike the games, which devolves that a little bit, and it's even shown in some games like Sonic 06 a little bit if you want to put it there, and it's shown in like small games like that where it tries to push her to being more like X Amy instead of being more like her Mega Drive version, which is something that's fine and will be changed later on and maybe fixed a little bit, but also kind of changed a little bit. But it also just goes to another idea with Sega's mandates and Sega's different stuff like that, but doesn't make a totally different characterization for Amy for this point. But now I want to talk about the biggest thing about Amy Rose as a character, which I have a big problem with, is with Amy's strength. Amy's strength originally in the original classics wasn't supposed to be anything extraordinary. Amy in the original games were supposed to be nothing more than a normal girl, and a lot of stuff lately kind of makes Amy this character who's super strong and she can do anything that the boys can do, and it makes her just like the boys, and she's so cool because she's just like the boys. But I find that idea really dumb, and it really goes against Amy's character how it was originally intended. And a lot of you may think I'm going to use this to blame Ian Flynn. Ian Flynn's the problem, and Ian Flynn's the reason why this is happening. No, I'm actually going to blame it on Takashi Iizuka and how he represents Amy in Sonic Heroes. Maybe not fully on him, but he kind of continues this on in later modern stuff as we see lately. With Amy and how she's represented in Sonic Heroes, she's kind of represented as this super strong character who can do anything now. Even literally the game previously where she was in, where she was doing something, which was SA1, where she was barely even capable of destroying a mini boss in a Sonic game. And it gets even weirder when we go to Sonic 06, where Amy is literally just that same girl who can barely destroy robots and needs to turn invisible or destroy things with bombs to actually destroy most of these normal robots Eggman has made. So it seems they're kind of conflicting on it even throughout these games, but most of the time she is mostly described as a normal girl and is shown to be a normal girl. Even if we look at the classic games, in the classic games, Amy is never really seen as being as fast as Sonic or as strong as Knuckles, but we see in Sonic Origins and different stuff like that in the modern games, Amy is somehow just able to destroy everything easily and do whenever she wants because she's a strong girl, can do whatever she wants because she's Amy and she's a big tough girl, which makes no sense because even if we did want to go with the idea in modern games that Amy is just stronger, sure, we can do that, but the whole idea is kind of messed up because of the fact that in Sonic Superstars, something that's supposed to be in the quote-unquote classic era, she is literally destroying the fucking ground and literally fighting these guys like it's normal and it's going on adventures casually with Sonic in them, even though we know with Sonic and Amy's dynamic this would never fucking happen in the classics. It barely is supposed to happen in the modern games, but we somehow accept it because of what Ian Flynn changes to be and what Azuka kind of wants it to be for this latest new idea of Amy in the Sonic series. And especially in Sonic Origins where she literally does try to break the ground so fucking normally, which should never fucking happen with Amy. I don't know why the fuck is this okay, because I see a lot of Amy fans kind of accept this when it kind of goes against every idea with Amy from the beginning of her being a normal girl. And if you really don't even understand the idea this is supposed to be what Amy is, let's look no further than the classic games. When we see Amy in Sonic CD, she's literally being captured by Metal Sonic, not able to do anything about it. She doesn't have her Pico Pico hammer, so she can't really do anything. When we see in Sonic the Fighters, she's literally using her Pico Pico hammer as a weapon to fight with the rest of the boys, as we've seen earlier that she couldn't really do before in Sonic CD. And we even see in Sonic R that she drives a car unlike everyone else who is running on their feet, because Amy is not as fast as everyone else. Amy is actually pretty slow compared to everyone else and she needs a car to catch up. And it's even shown more in other stuff like the tarot cards and stuff like that, which is supposed to show that she is a normal girl who's into fortune telling and different stuff like that. Amy is supposed to be described as this normal girl who does normal things and has no special abilities. But what does make Amy special is her heart. Her heart is what pushes her to do everything that she does in every game after this point. Sonic Heroes, her heart and her drive focuses on her helping Cream and Big. In Sonic Adventure, she tries to help out Birdie here, who's called Lily in Sonic X, and she tries to help the bird no matter what's happening. We even see in that final boss, Amy can't just destroy the robot just by destroying it normally with a hammer. She has to use her hammer to push the robot back into these electric fences just so she can hit the vulnerable point, because she can't just generally dent it beforehand. Now, some people will make the excuse that in, oh, Sonic X, you can see here, she kind of makes a dent in Eggman's ship, but that's mostly done for comedic purposes. Let's not forget, Amy, before she really became one of the mainstay characters, she was mostly used as a comedic character, mostly to chase Sonic and mostly to hit Sonic with his hammer, sometimes in the rightful ideas. Not all the time, but she uses it sometimes even when she's angry at other people. But it has a certain execution to it, which is clearly shown in the games when it comes to certain situations. But she's never just shown to be the super strong girl all the time. Now, I will say that she can destroy normal robots, but it's not because of Amy's natural strength. But that's the problem here, because we see in Sonic Origins she just destroys the ground in this outro for Sonic Superstars, which leads into it, which makes no sense, because if Amy was to get strong in the modern sense, I'd be 100% fine with it. But it's more the problem that's also in the classic ideas too, which then literally contradicts what you're doing in your own continuity, because how does she go from Superstars, strong girl, Sonic Adventure 1, weak girl, Sonic Heroes, strong girl, Sonic 06, weak girl again? It doesn't make no common sense, and it kind of ruins Amy as a character fundamentally, in my opinion. I know some people try to make the excuse of, oh, in Sonic Battle we see her grabbing weights and we see she takes them off, they're so heavy, so that means she was training to get stronger and she's been training to get stronger. Number one, in no other game does it actually describe that Amy is training to get stronger to, you know, become the strongest person ever, or she becomes super strong just like Knuckles. Nothing is stated like that in any game at all. Sonic Battle just has her have weights. Yes, absolutely, you can kind of make a point with that, but you forget what weights do. Weights are actually made to not just make you stronger, but they also, do you not know this, actually make you more flexible. They make you a little bit more faster, as we even see in Dragon Ball Z when Goku's fighting Ten Shinhan. He is still super strong. The only thing that is different here is that he is not holding back, and he can be super faster and can clearly do things faster than he could before, because they were holding him back from his speed, not from his his strength, because we already saw throughout the entire fight he could kind of see what's happening and already used his strength as advantage, but he needed the speed to go with that too, so he took off his weights. Weights are not just made to make you stronger. I know people will probably bring up the Dragon Ball argument, which is why I brought up that one with Ten Shinhan, because it is not just about strength with weights. Weights can help you be more flexible, it can help you be a little bit faster, it helps your agility even more, and it gives you more stamina. It does different stuff like that just because it's supposed to make you better in general, not just by strength. As you know, strength is never everything, and Amy doing this is endearing, but it's also, again, not just about her becoming the super strong girl that we know nowadays, especially when in Sonic 06 she's still weaker. And when it comes to Sonic Heroes, it's also kind of debatable if Amy's even stronger here too. I only make the point because in game we see that she's destroying Eggman bosses and different stuff like that, but if we look at the dialogue inside the game, Cream and Big are the ones clearly doubting this as if they're not capable enough to actually do it, but Amy's the one to keep them going. So it's clear kind of in the idea that they could still be weak. As you can still see here, they have an unreasonable amount of strength that was never seen before for Amy, or even for probably this whole group besides maybe Big. But then it also depends on which version of Cream you like, because usually Cream is supposed to be just as strong as the other Sonic characters, able to be as fast as the other Sonic characters, but we see in other continuity she's kind of weak, but I digress, it's not part of the point here. And I probably already said this a couple of times, but if you want to make it that modern Amy gets this strong, I'm fine with it. I just think it really does deteriorate what Amy is as a character and what Amy fundamentally is. If you look at stuff like SA2, where everyone out there is trying to stop the space colony Ark from crashing into the Earth, you can see Amy has nothing to really do. So she looks at Shadow in his most vulnerable moment and his idea of fulfillment, and then goes to Shadow and try to talk to him to try to get him to stop this, because Amy is the heart of the series. She is the heart that tries to keep everyone in place and tries to keep everyone around with her caring ideas and her caring ideals. If it wasn't for this person, or Amy just in general, and her influence by Sonic or just by herself, Shadow would have never changed. Shadow would never became this different and wouldn't be helping Sonic and everyone else, and wouldn't have sacrificed himself at the end of this game. That's simple, because Amy was the one who made an impact to him, being an innocent little normal girl just like Maria. And it especially shows in IDW, where when you take away that loving idea, you kind of just get this super strong girl with really nothing going on as a character. How Ian Flynn writes her really does take away all of that heart and stuff like that, and kind of pushes it to the side to kind of do it sometimes with doing a small points here and there, as a bunch of Ian Flynn defenders would show you. They would show you, oh, Amy's like in character in this small scene and this small scene, but it shouldn't be a small scene. It should be overall in every part of Amy as a character. It's even shown way better in the writer's arc of IDW, because it generally shows Amy being more of that caring person and more of that upstanding kind of person who kind of just really fights for people and fights for herself and still loves Sonic. Even though to some degree I would still feel like she isn't that close as she was to the games, but she has to some degree been developed to the point where she is closer to that way. But overall, I think on the whole strong girl idea, I think it overall should just be taken out entirely. There is no real purpose for it except for making her playable in the games like the others. Now, of course, I'm actually okay with this because I actually love playing her in Sonic Superstars, but I would also rather it not be this way and we actually do some creative things with the gameplay to actually still make her a normal girl and make her still work in Sonic levels, which can work because I have actual evidence of how this could work. If you look at this game, Sonic 3 Air, you can actually mod the game and add this Amy that's super customizable, and you can make her your own ideal Amy. And you can take ideas from Sonic Advance, you can take ideas from Sonic Superstars, you can take stuff from Sonic Origins, and you can take all these different Amy's from these different games and kind of make an Amy more suitable to how you want to play her. But with my custom made Amy, I actually made Amy more suitable to how I want a normal girl Amy to play, and you're seeing that footage right here as I'm talking right now. As you can see here, she has multiple different moves which allow her to do different things and allow her to show off who she is as a character, being this girl who can't do things the same as Sonic, and showing off how athletic she is and showing off how nimble she is and how she can maneuver around these different areas without being able to turn into a ball or do different things like that like Sonic in the group can, like in Sonic Advance, where she clearly can't turn into a ball like everyone else. But it's okay because that is a part of Amy and it still keeps her as a normal girl to some degree. I may have taken it off for this gameplay because I generally don't kind of like the idea too sometimes, but I digress. I think with Amy being a normal girl, there's a lot of potential here to do some interesting stuff with Amy. Even in Pariah's video on Amy, you can actually see some of the cool ideas you can actually do with Amy and making her more the normal girl aspect and adding new items to make her more accessible and more fun to play. Now that's enough on the whole weak girl, strong girl aspect. Now I actually want to go into the character dynamics, starting off with Amy and Eggman. Amy and Eggman is very simple. Amy is just seeing Eggman as one of the normal antagonists that her and Sonic have to fight sometimes or have to meet up with sometimes that get on her nerves, and she gets angry at him sometimes and she has to fight him and blah 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 blah. The same stuff you'll get in the games and pretty much anything else in any other media, where Eggman can maybe hold her as a captive, or Amy will maybe attack him or try to attack him if Eggman tries to insult her in X, or Eggman tries to do something silly and Amy tries to call him out on it. Mostly the same stuff you get from Amy and Eggman, nothing really different from the other characters. Now Amy and Tails is basically the same thing. Amy is more of a caring person who thinks of Tails as a friend, and her and Tails usually just hang out being chill and everything, or they'll be believing in Sonic together because they're both very close to Sonic. And Amy and Tails kind of relate in the idea that they both chase Sonic to some degree. Tails did when he was younger, when he was more of that younger, more shy person. Sonic gave him courage. Amy did it to mostly till now. She doesn't really change from that point, but they mostly just have the same dynamic where they're just caring friends who talk to each other here and there, nothing really different from them. I would say Tails does have one unique reaction to Amy at times, where Amy is fawning over Sonic and everything, and Tails, usually the rest of the group, kind of shakes their head in disappointment like, of course she's going to do this. Or if they're in private and Amy's like, well, I made this for Sonic with care and love, and Tails like, yeah, that happens, you do that a lot. Because Tails isn't really a rude character, but he also kind of understands this is the same shtick that happens all the time. There's even one fun little thing in SA2 where Tails is kind of protecting Amy and defending Amy from Eggman because Eggman's trying to attack Amy, and he comes in and saves her and protects her for that, and then leads her to Sonic to save him. So it kind of works out. They're like close friends that like helping Sonic because they're very close to him. But also in Tails being a very caring character, he does kind of care for Amy. He's like, Amy, you can't be here. This is very dangerous and you gotta kind of be careful here because this is very dangerous. But you can clearly see when Amy's dynamic with Tails that Amy's like, I don't care. I'ma still help Sonic because I love Sonic and Sonic needs my help. And it's like, okay, Amy, I guess. Now with Amy and Knuckles, they actually kind of have a little bit of a unique dynamic between them, with Amy talking to Knuckles more in a casual kind of way, while also kind of seeing Knuckles as kind of this person who kind of shuns off the idea of it, kind of feeling more comfortable being by himself. But Amy does sometimes like to follow Knuckles and talk to Knuckles and hang with Knuckles, and then sometimes she'll call out Knuckles for certain things, and Knuckles will call out Amy for certain things, or call out Sonic, which then calls Amy to get insulted and kind of be like, that's not fair to Sonic, and Knuckles is like, whatever. But then she kind of has times where she's like, oh, Knuckles, you're being very rude, and Knuckles is like, fine, don't follow me, and Amy's like, hey, wait up, like she does in Sonic X. There are times when Knuckles and Amy, when they get together, Knuckles is being very quiet and Amy kind of comes around to talk to him a little bit more, and Knuckles isn't really into the idea, and then he kind of gets rude, or he just kind of casually lets her be around without really caring much. And I think that's very fun for Knuckles and Amy, and Knuckles' more ambiverted kind of idea where he's very introverted at times but very extroverted a lot of times. And thanks to Amy being able to read Knuckles, like I said in Sonic X, she's able to see when Knuckles is doing some very dumb things or is clearly being tricked by Eggman, and kind of calls him out in it or jokes around with it, or she'll literally call out Knuckles when he's embarrassed because she knows like it's kind of obvious, and she'll try to like kindly talk about it, but Knuckles kind of takes it to the offense because he's kind of this tsundere character. And I think it works very well for this cheerful character who's always cheerful and always being uppity about it, even when she's trying to be more concerned for Knuckles, and Knuckles is like, shut up. Now on to the final one and the big one, which is of course Sonic and Amy, which is the big point of Sonic and Amy's dynamic and the big point of the Sonic fandom's controversy with them. When it comes to Sonic and Amy, there's a lot of big problems that people have with Sonic and Amy's dynamic, but I want to do my best to actually talk about them and talk about what is healthy and unhealthy with their dynamic, and say how it naturally develops in this series and how it's actually shown in this series, and how people kind of misconstrue it or kind of flanderize it to make it their own personal thing, which is very weird and very creepy and kind of sexist. Because kind of the big idea with Sonic and Amy's dynamic is the fact that Amy chases Sonic and Sonic kind of runs away. But I feel like people kind of don't understand why Sonic is running away, because a lot of people don't actually know Sonic as a character compared to IDW or compared to the 2010s. Because let's not forget, in Sonic's first character description in Sonic Jam, it describes Sonic as being a ladies' man, but he's also a person who does not like being chased. Why does he not like being chased? We'll actually go into that into a minute with a lot of stuff that comes from different descriptions of Sonic and Amy's dynamic. When Sonic is around females, when they're cheering on him and all that, you can see Sonic is kind of waving, but he also runs away because he's not very comfortable in a situation with females. When it comes to females and their open affection for Sonic, Sonic kind of gets embarrassed and gets kind of shy around it. Just like how we see in this one scene I put in Sonic's original video, where these two girls kind of call Sonic cute and Sonic's all blushing saying, how embarrassing. because that's what Sonic is. Sonic is very embarrassed. He's a very shy, embarrassed kind of character. And this idea doesn't show any stronger with anyone but Amy Rose. Amy Rose, when she does chase after Sonic, Sonic is the most uncomfortable. It is described by people who see Sonic and by Amy herself that Sonic is a little bit shy and is a little bit aloof to the idea. With the idea of aloof, it kind of describes itself as being cool and distant or conspicuously uninvolved or uninterested, typically through distaste. But with Sonic, it makes sense because Sonic is a very shy kind of character, so he either tries to act chill and kind of pushes it away. He's also very much the character to kind of disconnect from it entirely. As we see in many games where Amy's around, Sonic gets kind of, like Amy, like she's here and she's kind of just squeezing him into this bubble that he's not really comfortable in. Or we see in stuff like Sonic X where Amy's trying to invite him to do stuff and Sonic is like, nah, I'm good, or I already been there, but that's fine, you can have fun. Like, he does these things that are clearly like he isn't very connected to the idea. Even as it is said later on, he may actually have feelings for Amy, but he's never actually going to describe them out fully. As we see in stuff like Sonic X, where Sonic is casually able to carry Amy and protect Amy whenever he can, but he's also known to be very uncomfortable with Amy when it comes to other situations, just because he is very shy and very aloof to the situation. We can even see in stuff like Sonic X where Sonic clearly sees that Amy has affection for him, but he also used that to his advantage. Like when in the episode where he's scared of the water and wants to get off very quickly, he kind of tells Amy how he loves the idea of her using her hammer so forcefully, which could actually be true because he actually uses boku, which is kind of like a kind of young way of describing yourself. Kind of showing that he's kind of doing this in a more juvenile way and kind of doing it in a more innocent, childlike way, because Boku kind of means like a more innocent way. Sonic usually says Ora, like Ora Sonic the Hedgehog. That's kind of usually what he uses, and it's not being used here when he's talking to Amy in this kind of fake, vulnerable way. So it can be a true connection of how he feels about Amy, or it could be something he's doing very childishly to kind of get Amy to do what he wants. But as we obviously see later on in Sonic X, Sonic does confess at the end of at least Season 2 that he does love Amy. It is not fully said, but we kind of guess what he's saying when we see it at the end there. And we see how he kind of connects to Amy later on in the rest of the next season, in the Metarex arc, where he's clearly more close to Amy and isn't feeling as uncomfortable as he was in previous seasons. But some people will state this as non-canon, which I actually find very stupid because it is in character with everyone fundamentally. The only people in Sonic X that are kind of different are Amy and Dr. Eggman, but they aren't dramatically different to the point where this doesn't make sense. The only thing different in the situation here is that in Sonic X, Sonic and Amy have had a super uncomfortable amount of time together, which actually makes Sonic okay to actually be more open around Amy and actually kind of commit that he loves her. We even see in stuff like Sonic X or Sonic 06 where Amy talks about this love thread of fate which connects everyone, and we even see in this scene that Amy kind of telepathically talks to Sonic and Sonic kind of feels it, kind of showing that they have a very deep connection that is very close and very romantical in a type of way that shows that Sonic and Amy do have some type of partnership feelings for each other.
Amy?
Because it is overall shown here that Sonic and Amy have a true relationship. A lot of people kind of put the relationship in the idea of, oh, Amy's a fangirl and she has no real connection to Sonic, but no, we actually see throughout most of the series that Amy and Sega kind of prove that Amy does have this actual real love for Sonic, this actual real natural love. If you look at Amy's song in Sonic Adventure 1, her main theme literally talks about her connection to Sonic and how she admires him and how she wants to be like him and how she really does love him. It's even shown in Sonic Heroes character song where it actually shows that she actually does know what Sonic is about and she really does feel for him in every type of way. It's even shown by Sega where it shows that Naito Oshima, Yuji Naka, and everyone pretty much anticipates that Amy and Sonic are going to get together, and Oshima literally says himself that Sonic will only date Amy if he had the heart of a man. Sonic right now only has the heart of a boy, which causes him to be aloof and be all shy and stuff like that, which causes him to not have the courage, like it says in Sonic Unleashed, to actually be able to show who he is to Amy. We can even see this idea in Sonic Colors on the DS where the reason that Amy chases Sonic because she doesn't see Sonic in so long. Everyone in the Sonic group always doesn't see Sonic for a long time. And we can even see in Sonic Colors that when Amy does see Sonic, she talks about how exhausted she is from not seeing Sonic in so long because it's been so long since she saw him, and she does genuinely love him, so she wants to see him as much as she can. It even goes into the aspects of Amy as a fundamental character. We can see how Amy's open optimism and happy-go-lucky attitude and her love of love kind of pushes her to kind of be this idea that Sonic kind of gets worn down by Amy, which kind of makes the reason why Sonic kind of runs away. Amy kind of wears Sonic down, which then causes Sonic to kind of, you know, stay closely away because he's more shy and more awkward. We can see it in multiple games, like all these examples where Amy tries to get Sonic to do something. He's like, what? I guess I have to do it. You can even see it in this fun little picture here in Sonic Shuffle where Sonic is like, I guess I'll help Amy, because Amy's asking him, and Amy has this very bubbly energy that Sonic can't resist, and Sonic is the only one whose weakness is Amy. This is very funny, and I very much love it for their dynamic. Sonic, with all this charisma and all this courage and all this braveness and all this playfulness, just somehow gets worn down by this girl who's just being very cute and bubbly, and Sonic just kind of is like, oh, she's so cute and so nice, I can't really like get away from her, she's so nice. And it's like, I guess I have to help her. I may have been exaggerating a little bit there at the end, but that idea kind of pushes here where Sonic isn't really hating Amy. Everyone sees Sonic kind of hating Amy, and Amy as this weird stalker that just kind of wants Sonic and kind of wants to keep Sonic restricted and everything, when that's not actually true. A lot of people use the idea of Sonic Heroes where Amy's like, Sonic, there's no way you'll get out of marrying me. But if you actually forgot, in SA2 it was actually originally a joke. If you see in the Japanese, Amy says this.
あったのか。やつは今どこにいるんだ。
教えたら私と結婚してくれる？
No way。
チャンスだと思ったのに。
And when you see it in Sonic Heroes, it's a callback to that where she's saying this, and literally Sonic says in the middle of the fight, Amy, you shouldn't be playing around right now, stop it. Because Sonic is literally saying, hey, you're playing around right now, you're not actually serious. A lot of people use this as their main point to say that Amy is a big stalker who just stalks Sonic, when I think it's the dumbest fucking thing you could ever use because you generally don't understand the context, mostly by American stuff, but it also is shown in the Japanese very clearly here, which you would literally understand if you actually understood what Amy was about. Because even very well shown in this episode of Sonic X that Amy understands Sonic to a degree that others don't, where Sonic gets a microchip stuck in his ear after saving Amy in a haystack. We literally see that Amy is seeing that Sonic is acting weird, and everyone's like, huh, Sonic's acting normal, he's just digging in his ear. Amy's like, there's something wrong with Sonic, and Amy is right, because we see later on Sonic is uncomfortably running, and is actually, at the end, she helps Sonic get the chip out of his ear by blowing it out, because Amy was the only one there who truly understood Sonic on a deeper connection that is love. And Sonic, of course, kind of understands that, but of course, due to who he is, it stops them from being a couple. And I will go into that right now. And my theory on the reason this doesn't work out between Sonic and Amy is something that actually does connect to them being hedgehogs, with the idea of the hedgehog's dilemma, or is sometimes called the porcupine dilemma, which is usually a metaphor about the challenge of human intimacy. It describes a situation in which a group of hedgehogs seek to move close to one another to share heat during cold weather. They must remain apart, however, as they cannot avoid hurting one another with their sharp spines. Though they all share the intention of close reciprocal relationships, this cannot occur for unavoidable reasons. As described by Arthur Schwarzenegger, he conceived this idea to be the metaphor for the state of the individual in society. Despite goodwill, humans cannot be intimate without the risk of mutual harm, leading to cautious and tentative relationships. It is wise to be guarded with others for fear of getting hurt and also fear of hurting others. The dilemma may encourage self-imposed isolation. And Totally Not Mark talks about it here in his Evangelion video, or Evangelion, whichever one you like to say. As you can see here, it describes that the flaws of humanity kind of make it hurt each other and make them hurt each other in that relationship, which is what I don't really think that Sonic Amy's dynamic is going to be. I think it's more, in my idea, is the idea of Sonic and Amy, they have these ideal ways of living, but in those ideals they kind of contradict each other. You can see with Amy, she kind of fundamentally kind of wants to be in a relationship with Sonic, but she also understands that Sonic is not made for that relationship, so that kind of makes her kind of push for it, but also kind of do it in kind of a playful / kind of friend-like way. While Sonic, on the other hand, he kind of understands that Amy does have these feelings, and he may have these feelings too, but due to his ideas of freedom and kind of wanting to adventure and kind of want to keep himself out of that, being very aloof and being very fun and charismatic, it kind of causes them to kind of, you know, be uncomfortable in that situation, but it also causes them to kind of push Amy away in a way that's kind of unnatural for someone to be in a relationship with. Again, kind of the idea what Oshima said, Sonic having the heart of a boy and not the heart of a man. Which is the main reason why Sonic always runs away from Amy. It's not because he hates her and he kind of just wants to be away from her. No, we can clearly see that if Amy calms down, that Sonic will be more comfortable around her. And we'll go into that in a minute with a certain origin, but for this point, I just want to say that Sonic really does care for Amy, and that is the most important part when it comes to Sonic and Amy, is that Sonic does care, and we see it in pretty much everything where he's saving Amy and protecting Amy, and Amy does inspire to be like Sonic. The only way that Sonic and Amy would be able to get together in a more normal circumstance if Sonic gets a chance to understand who Amy really is, because Amy and Sonic have a lot alike. Now you may be like, what? That's impossible. Amy and Sonic do not act alike at all. Okay, then I want you to answer this simple question. When you think of each of these characters, which do you think is which? We have adventurous, headstrong, action-based, short-tempered, competitive, energetic, freedom-loving, kind, inspirational, friendly, sassy, hates boredom. I'm pretty sure most of you probably assume that that's Sonic, right? Yes, but most of those traits actually relate to Amy too. I know, a shocker. Because when we talk about adventurous, that's literally one of the first things are literally about Amy. We literally see in Essay 1 that Amy wants to go on adventures just like Sonic, and it's literally that simple. Sonic and Amy both love adventure. When it comes to headstrong, yeah, they're both obviously very headstrong. When it comes to Sonic literally charging in to fight Eggman and Amy literally charging in to help anyone in need, they both do the same thing. They're both basically the same character to some degree. Now they both do it kind of differently, with Amy more focused on her heart and Sonic being more focused on the playful and funness of it and the freedom of it all. While Amy is the heart, Sonic is literally as free as the wind. Now them being action-based and short-tempered, that's clearly obvious. They both get clearly angry. Sonic gets angry when Eggman is messing with his friends and everyone around him, and Amy gets angry when someone is talking shit about her friends or even herself. We see this obviously because it's literally a part of them. And they're clearly both action-based because they both literally love going on adventures and getting into action. They're competitive and energetic. Obvious fucking Lee. This is nothing literally new or different between both of them. Amy is very competitive because she loves going in these riders games and going to races and different stuff like that, because she'll also see Sonic, but they're literally also both energetic because we literally see that Sonic is super happy and energetic when he's going on these adventures, and Amy's literally energetic when she sees Sonic and also going on these adventures. It's the same thing. They're both freedom loving kind individuals, of course, because Amy wants to free Birdie and different animals and different stuff like that. She's a very caring character. So is Sonic. He cares for his friends and wants to free them. They're both very sassy in a type of way, and they both hate boredom because they want to go out and go on adventures. This is literally them just being very connected in every way possible. Sonic and Amy have very similar things, but Sonic doesn't really see that because all he sees Amy as is someone trying to chase him because she's in love with him, and Sonic is not comfortable with that right now. And Sonic also sees Amy as a normal girl who isn't that capable, is able to be helping Sonic and Tails on their adventures. That's why there's times where Sonic and Tails meet with Amy and they just run off casually, and Amy's like, they always leave me, because they do, because Sonic doesn't see Amy as the adventurous hero as she is. There needs to be a story that actually gets to that, where they can be adventurous heroes and actually very close friends. And luckily enough, Pariah's already made that story, has already made that adventure for Sonic and Amy to become friends, because Sega will never do it, and Sega kind of rushes their development, and so does Ian Flynn, because Ian Flynn really doesn't like their dynamic at all, which I'll talk about in a couple minutes. But overall, Sonic and Amy could become actual friends, but they're not actually friends right now. They're kind of, in my opinion, mostly associates. As we see how Sonic is very uncomfortable with Amy and doesn't really like hanging around Amy, it should be grown to that point where we do get that dynamic. But as we see from stuff like Sega and Ian Flynn, they kind of lately have kind of just been rushing it and kind of sweeping it under the side that they were really romantical and really not that close. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't think Sonic and Amy are friends. Sonic can basically be friends with anyone for the least amount of reason, but still be friends with them. So they are friends, but they aren't close in that way as friends like Tails, Knuckles, and other people, because Sonic isn't even that very close to them that much. But to some degree, Amy is more distance away because of her overshowing of love that gets Sonic uncomfortable. Now, this isn't fully a bad thing, but it can be developed in its own way. And I actually do have a scenario from Sonic and Amy's origin which does kind of solve this problem. If you remember my Tales video, I talk about the Kitsune's origin from an anime called Yorosai Yatsura. We're going to be using that as inspiration again for the origin of Sonic and Amy, because as we know, Sonic and Amy were created to kind of be the Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse dynamic of their series. But what we see later on, Ian Flynn kind of calls them out for being this cat and mouse relationship and wants to kind of have a climax. I can agree we should kind of have a climax, but I also don't agree at the same time. If you wanted to have a climax for Sonic and Amy, there is a perfectly easy and simple way to do that Sega does not want to do right now, and Ian Flynn probably doesn't have the genius brain to do right now. The simple idea is to use the anime Yorosai Yatsura, because that was basically the origin of Sonic and Amy's dynamic. Let me basically sum it up to you. So the story starts off with a guy named Arturo. He's always chasing girls, but girls kind of reject him because he's always going after the next girl, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then one day these mystery aliens come down trying to take over the world unless one of them could challenge Loom, which is the alien girl, which will be in the entire series. In that, Arturo basically chases Loom for all this time over and over and over again, and does it in a dedication of getting married to another character. In the idea of winning, he catches Loom and basically accidentally kind of says that he wants to marry her by cheering it out, and she basically takes it as his nod as wanting to marry her, and she accepts it, and basically that's how the story starts. She basically does what Amy does in the series by basically chasing after Arturo and calling him her darling, and clearly being in love with him to a stronger degree than he actually has for her. But to this point, she doesn't really know him that well, but she slowly does get to know him throughout the series, and Arturo gets to know her more. And after this one scene where Loom kind of makes up the fake girlfriend for Arturo that he kind of flaunts around, and then Loom kind of fakes it for him, making it a secret admirer, he kind of gets in a hard predicament where he has to meet her in person, and Loom is like, oh no, I made up this lie and I have to protect him. So she basically protects him with her love by actually faking to be that person and going on this date with Arturo. Then after that, he calls her out for doing this, but he kind of sees an attraction to her as she sees she kind of needs to dial back and be kind of friends with him. And Arturo, through that, kind of sees the idea that she's very pretty now and she's very helpful, she's very kind, which causes Arturo to kind of, you know, see her in a different light, kind of sees her as beautiful, sees her as something that he maybe wants to date to some degree, but he's still uncomfortable with her. But as you get more and more through the series, you can see more and more that Arturo and Loom get closer no matter what, to the point where Arturo is able to find Loom and chase after Loom and make sure Loom is okay, but also to the point where he's still kind of uncomfortable with her, and she kind of shocks him. Like when Arturo is chasing other females, Arturo goes and does that, and Loom gets mad and starts shocking him because, like Amy with the hammer, she gets mad at Sonic and hits him with it. It's kind of that same dynamic. But in the end of the series, Arturo knows that he loves Loom and literally fights to the end, chasing after her until he wins the challenge to basically win Loom and basically commit how much he's in love with her. That is the idea I think Sonic and Amy should go through, going along with Pariah's story for Sonic and Amy, and then going into the ideas of how Arturo and Loom got together. That is how I think they would technically get together. But I don't actually agree that this should actually happen, and I'm going to get into Ian Flynn after this point, but I want to talk about the characters a little bit more. While I think this is the ideal way to actually get them together, I don't think this is the end-all be-all of Sonic and Amy. Sonic and Amy's relationship is at the point where they are not close at this point, but at least for now, Sega does kind of put them in the idea that they are friends. But the only real way that Sonic would really get this close to Amy is if Amy really dials it down. Just like how Loom did in Yorosai Yatsura, Amy would have to do the same thing to some degree. As we can clearly see when in Sonic and the Black Knight, Sonic first sees the Lady of the Lake and is kind of shocked and kind of starts running away, but then he stops once he finds out this is a different person. When he finds out this is a different person, he literally starts acting more calm, starts putting his arm more around her, and starts clearly acting more relaxed around her that he usually isn't with Amy. It's even seen in one of the Sonic stations where Sonic is given a cake by Amy, and Amy makes it out of love and even adds a forever sign, and Sonic literally makes a wish and he literally blows out the sign, flipping it around to where it says forever, where it basically shows that Sonic accepts Amy's foreverness in the relationship, and clearly showing that he kind of has feelings for her, even how he clearly passes it by once it's done. We even have another Sonic Station thing where he talks about how much he likes Amy from a question from a fan, where he talks about how great Amy is and how much he admires her and how she does her thing, and then he gets all flustered right after that, clearly showing that if Amy calms down, Sonic will be more comfortable in his liking of her, but still be kind of embarrassed. You could even use the same idea with Amy and how she's usually shy, because you can see in certain scenes where Sonic is kind of being more flirtatious or kind of going at Amy in kind of a romantical way, Amy starts blushing herself, kind of showing another parallel between them, that they both get kind of awkward in the whole idea of being flirtatious, except that Amy kind of accepts it but kind of acts a little bit proper and awkward, like like a girl would if she's getting flirted on by a boy that's attractive, but Sonic, on the opposite hand, kind of feels uncomfortable by it because of how he lives and how he sees this idea of being aloof and different stuff like that. But overall, this is just to say that Sonic and Amy are clearly more mutually kind of in this romantic relationship together, but a lot of people kind of take this idea that, oh, Amy's being the weird one, is being so romantical and stuff like that, when it's pretty much mutually agreed that Sonic and Amy would basically get together, like what Oshima said, if Sonic had the heart of a man. And I think overall this is even pushed by the ideas of Amy as a character and her being a normal girl, because one aspect of normal girl that Totally Not Mark talks about in his video on My Hero Academia says this.
In the past, I found the likes of Todoroki, Bakugo, and Uraraka extremely compelling in combat, and I thought it was entirely down to who they were or their personalities. Bakugo's bravado in the face of unwavering terror is invigorating, if not downright inspiring. Todoroki's internal conflict and familial expectation creates its own drama, and Uraraka's determination to not be left behind and find her own inner strength is powerful to watch. These personalities and many more you might think are all more complicated and interesting than Deku's, and at one point in time I would have agreed with you. There's only so far you can take that scared boy stands up for himself mentality before you experience diminishing returns after all. So, what did Horikoshi do to make him interesting? Well, the exact same thing he did with every other character I just mentioned. In My Hero Academia, the power a hero wields is as intrinsically a part of their physical being as a professional runner's legs are a part of them. They are a physical extension of the character, and in the hands of Horikoshi, a foil with which everyone's inner struggle is exacerbated. He gave Bakugo a power set that gave him every advantage a hero could ask for, and through doing so made failure that much more crushing. He gave Todoroki a power that highlighted the very struggle within his mind, a struggle between two identities, forcing him every single time he looks in the mirror to contend with that reality. He gave Uraraka, a girl who needs to become a great hero to provide for her family, a power that doesn't naturally mix well in combat, forcing her to think outside of the box and try harder than many of the others to break even. If you were to suddenly give Bakugo Uraraka's power, his character's relationship with success and failure would be flipped on its head. He wouldn't make sense or be nearly as interesting. And the same goes for all of the rest. This is why when the exam begins and everyone from the opposing schools focuses their attacks on Class 1A, they ultimately fail. Because while they might think they have the ultimate advantage by knowing of their quirks inside and out ahead of time, what allows these characters to find success and to overcome is the personality that complements these powers. And I think that's partially why they are called quirks and not powers. These are more than powers, they are physical manifestations of their own personalities and struggles.
And in that video, it talks about the ideas of Sonic's character's powers having something connected to them as a character, and I think that fundamentally makes sense as to why Amy is a normal girl. It works for her and Sonic's relationship because Amy's heart shows more than anything, just like the character of Uraraka. Just like another character, for example, Mako from Kill la Kill. Mako throughout the entire series isn't really that capable, isn't really that strong, but is more of a simple country girl or even kind of a city girl who's more just kind of living life to the best that she can, being very positive and is supporting Ryuko in anything that she does because she likes Ryuko a lot and she kind of has a crush on her, maybe, I don't know, don't take the debates of the sub or the dub or blah 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 blah, but overall Mako is a very loving, supporting character, and they even make a kind of gag out of this where Mako is so good at her heart that it kind of adds to everything when she puts on the uniform, and I think it's a funny joke and a funny idea, but it goes with that idea with Amy where they're not extraordinary people, but they have these crazy hearts that actually impact everyone around them, including the main character, which makes them a good character, and I think fundamentally taking that away from Amy just messes up their relationship even more, in my opinion. And I think it's a big problem when we go into Ian Flynn's characterization of Amy, so we're going to go into that right now. So pretty much with every other character we've done for this whole series, Ian Flynn does not get Amy right, and I say even to the strongest degree, Amy is one of the main ones he does not get right, and it is very disappointing in my opinion, but overall it makes sense for how he writes a lot of stuff, so in general he doesn't do any of the characters right, and Amy is basically the same thing. Starting off with the first issue of IDW, well, technically not the first issue of IDW, this is technically the first issue that Amy was introduced in. Amy basically comes in smashing a giant fucking robot casually, which is not a thing Amy would do, and then she starts playing all playful and snarky with Sonic. That's the thing what Ian Flynn does a lot of the time. He always makes everyone so snarky. He's always like, ha, Sonic, it's so funny. We got you with a joke because, you know, you're the jokester. So we got to be jokesters too because no one has an individual idea of how they are as a person, you know. It's just so weird. And then Ian does this thing where he tries to make Amy like Nick Fury, telling people to go do this and go do that, and basically commanding people to do a strategy to beat them. But that was never Amy's thing. It literally says in Amy's character that she does not really think these things through, just like Sonic, so it makes no common sense for her to be doing this, even though she was in a quote-unquote resistance where she wasn't really the leader in forces, and he kind of just made that up. I see some people make the argument that she's kind of like Sally Acorn, and I haven't read Archie in years, and I really don't give a shit about Archie, and I've only read like one chapter lately, but I really don't think that's the same thing, but it is kind of fundamentally the same thing, because Ian Flynn has said before he wants to quote-unquote expand on Amy, and I guess this expands on Amy by making her a different character? I guess that works? Maybe I'm crazy. And the big thing here in this chapter is that she's like constantly trying to get Sonic to join the resistance. Like, Sonic, you have to join the resistance, you have to join the resistance, which is even weird later on because she'll then retroactively be like, yeah, I know you wouldn't do it. But then the whole time she's still literally begging him constantly to come to the resistance and do it for me, do it for your friends, which is weird because I'm pretty sure Amy would never be like, just do it for me, because like Sonic would never do that. And then like, do it for your friends. If anyone, Amy should know this more than anyone, that he would not do it for no one, and it doesn't matter. I don't know why she's so persistent on doing this, because she's tired and blah 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 blah, which is going to be the next thing I'm going to talk about, because that's very weird too. Because overall, I think the idea of Amy actually taking over Resistance and kind of taking over because Knuckles isn't capable of doing it is mostly a joke at Knuckles, and it's very weird. And also it's kind of dumb because I don't think Amy would ever be doing this at all, because Amy's not that type of leader. She's a leader to tell people to keep going, not the type of person to be like, hey, you go do this strategy and do this strategy and you make this combination and this and this and that and that and that, and I'm so snarky and I'm the pretty girl Amy, but I'm also not Amy because I like being the leader like Sally Acorn, blah 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 blah. Like, I don't give a shit. This is not Amy. Because let's not forget, Amy is the type of character who is also a free spirit like Sonic. So her staying around and helping these people and always being here constantly because she has to doesn't make really any sense. And also technically she's like a 12-year-old girl, so why the fuck is she doing this, and why is she the one being responsible even though she has none of the qualifications, almost just as much as Knuckles? The only thing she probably has is that she's a city girl, so she's been in the city. That's pretty much it. And that doesn't mean shit, I'm just saying it's exaggeration because it's stupid. It almost to some degree makes Amy seem like the responsible mother, the responsible female grown woman in the group, like in Sonic Boom where she kind of acts like that. And it kind of does make sense because we do actually see in kind of an interview with Ian Flynn, he talks about how he was trying to get rid of Amy's girly dress to kind of have her in a Sonic Boom outfit.
While it might be somewhat sacrilegious, I would almost want to tinker with Sonic to bring him more in line with Shadow and Silver's design standards, because now he's the odd one out. It's 2 against 1, you know?
I guess. And unless Amy also is... Does Amy fall in line more with Sonic? I mean, she has the tan arms.
Maybe. And I'd almost want to give Amy something closer to her Boom look as a standard.
Yes.
I don't know. I've never been super fond of the flare skirt and the go-go boots.
The hoop skirt, no. The go-go boots, sure.
Hoop skirt.
Might as well. But the hoop skirt, they really leaned into that with some of the camera angles when it was first introduced, and it's like, why? Please don't. No. It's like, oof. So luckily that's been toned down quite a lot, but yeah, let's just go Boom. Let's just boom a fire.
Or if not the Boom look, then maybe a more direct update of the classic look into something a little more sporty, but still feminine. I mean, she leans into her femininity hard, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Just, I don't know. I've never been super fond of the modern look.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, and it's kind of uncomfortably weird for Amy because she's a girl and she has to be a girl, so why would you take that away from her? Not saying the outfit isn't very girly, but it isn't very super girly and Amy girly, so it kind of seems like he's trying to derive from that in general, so it's very weird to me. Now this is kind of the big thing with Sonic and Amy's dynamic, where Amy kind of seems like very shy and very compacted in the idea of her love for Sonic, which I find completely weird because in the first chapter she's kind of blushing, but she kind of shakes it off, and she kind of acts very awkward and not very openly loving like she is with Sonic usually, where she tries to hug him, tries to say, Sonic, I found you. She doesn't do any of that here, and even when she does try to show some romance, it's kind of a blush that she kind of throws away, or it's just a small comment of how I love you, and then she really doesn't do anything else besides that. It doesn't feel like Sonic and Amy's dynamic at all, and it feels kind of fucking weird, and it feels very out of character, and it kind of shows that Ian Flynn, as he said in the interview, he's trying to dial back the love idea because it takes up too much of Amy's identity, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but I do think that it's overall weird that Amy and Sonic's love is never really prominently a thing, and Ian Flynn says he's quote unquote dialing it down. You can even see where Sega even tries to dial it down, because you see it in Sonic Station where Sonic and Amy are hanging around and Amy kind of fawns over Sonic, but she doesn't do it in a very openly way as she used to, and she's kind of more reserved with it. But Tails kind of gets what's happening, and we kind of get what's happening with Amy and Sonic, so they kind of do have a relationship, but they kind of dialed it down to a weird degree. Another even good example that I think is the most scary thing about seeing it in Japanese is the fact that when Amy introduced herself, she introduced herself as Sonic's friend, even though in pretty much everything ever in existence before this, Amy would call herself Sonic's girlfriend. It would be Sonic's partner, Sonic's girlfriend, something about a relationship. It would never be that Amy would ever casually call herself Sonic's friend, and I can see that through Ian Flynn stuff and through Sega stuff that they are trying to dial it back. You can say to some degree that Sega Japan is still keeping that romance, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but Ian Flynn tries to ignore it. But overall, it does seem like they are trying to dial it back a little bit for both sides. But even then, there's this weird scene at IDW where Amy's going through the Zomba arc and everything, and Amy's like, "Oh, Cream, how do you stay happy?" Bitch, you're the main person who stays happy all the fucking time! It's so fucking dumb, and it's so confusing, and I don't get it, because it's literally in character for Amy to be positive during the situation. But there are people on Twitter who'll be like, "Oh, Amy can't be positive every situation." I think even Ian Flynn says it one time, which is so dumb, like, Amy can't be the positive and cheering girl when they're about to die, which is fucking stupid, because Amy's one of the most positive girls ever, and she is the person to uplift everyone, just like Sonic to some degree. It makes no sense for Amy to literally be the one to be all doubting and sad, because you can't fucking write the character in the right way, because you don't understand how these characters actually work. It's so fucking dumb to me.
128 bot. So, Amy fans prefer Amy's characterizations in IDW's Writer's Arc and in Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog over Frontier's Amy, because they like how aggressive, clingy, and cartoonish she is there. Are they right for thinking that? Did Frontier's Amy get over those traits and become more mature?
Some Amy fans, and I would be interested to know where you are specifically pulling from, because there are also the Amy fans who were very happy with how mature and focused she was in Frontiers. There's also the complete difference of Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, where she's having a great time at her birthday party, and Frontiers, where she is a spirit trapped between dimensions, struggling to keep her sanity as she waits for Sonic to bring her back from the edge of oblivion. There is no way those characters are going to act the same way in those scenarios. You're not going to have happy, bubbly, clingy Amy when she's near death.
They're two very different contexts. Yeah. And it's also like part of the tone of Frontiers was overall more of that
somber,
yeah. I was gonna say dark, but that's not really right. Yeah,
a little both. I mean, you got space alien genocide in the mix. That's dark.
That's pretty dark. I mean, for Sonic, that's just Tuesday, but still.
And she was still upbeat and positive and proactive as much as she could be.
Yes.
In that context. So it is the same character. It's a different context.
Right. Yeah.
安全体となったのです。まさにガイア文書に記されていた通り、世界を夜に押しつつ、すべてを破滅に導く。なるほど。これでこの星もおしまい。
絶対そんなはずないわ。だって私たちにはソニックがいるんだもの。
And if you want to give the example of Sonic 06 where Amy is clearly sad that Sonic died, yeah, but literally when Elise and Amy are talking, they talk about there's this wind near that they feel, making that seem like Sonic is alive, and look what happens after Sonic comes back to life. Amy goes back to being happy and cheerful. She even does what she can to actually get Sonic to come back to life because she can feel it too. They can both feel that their connection to Sonic is still there and that Sonic is still alive, so Amy and Elise do their best to try and help Sonic. Amy even tells Elise to stay with Sonic because she knows that she has this connection to Sonic in a crushing kind of way maybe, and she still understands and still does her thing to be cheerful in this moment of death. And even if you want to bring up an example from the IDW comics where Amy does hug Sonic at the end of the Zamba arc, she's doing it because he's back, so it makes sense she's happy that he's back and stuff like that. But overall, it doesn't really give off that same feel that Amy is chasing after Sonic and hugging Sonic because she loves him. It just shows that she's concerned for Sonic, so she hugs him for that point. She even says later on in the panel, it was like, he never stays still, does he? You fucking know this. You literally talk about this in Sonic Colors on the DS, where you literally say, oh Sonic, it's been so long since I've seen you, you're always gone. She literally knows this. What the fuck is so different? He's never going to stay still. You should know this more than anyone. Why are you saying this comment? But overall, I think Ian Flynn just writes Amy as the mature girl who's always mature and knows how to handle things, but when she can, she gets a little peppy, but also gets a little angry. And even there's some panels where Amy does act more peppy, but doesn't really feel like Amy when she does it. It feels like the mature Amy just getting more time to relax and be a little bit more happy, and then she'll have times when she acts excited like, hi Sonic, but she won't really do anything too extreme that feels like Amy. And then of course there's Evan Stanley, where Evan Stanley does get Amy a little bit closer in the writer's arc. Pretty much before that, she seems the same as Ian Flynn's Amy, which is basically not really Amy. And overall, I do think the writer's arc is a little bit closer, but overall she still does feel like Ian Flynn's writing of Amy, because even you can see a little bit later, Ian Flynn's writing of Amy does get a little bit better, which is a little bit more energetic, a little bit more curious, but she doesn't really feel like a little girl, which I feel like is a big aspect of Amy, where she feels like a little girl who isn't bound by this duty to do this and has to do this and do that, and kind of makes it feel like she's the mother of the situation, has to manage it, has to be very good at it, has to still be very good, very strategizable, while also being a little bit rash, but still having to be very strategizable about it. And she doesn't really feel like Amy in that degree. And I feel it's very strong in Sonic Frontiers, where Amy's kind of this sober character who's like, oh Sonic, I need to feel the beauty of blah 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 blah, and I feel so weird and stuff like that. And she doesn't really act positive in this game at all. I think Ian Flynn tries to say it's that she's dying, but it doesn't really make sense here. But overall, Amy's supposed to be a more positive character who does want to help people, but also is doing it because she wants to help people, not because she has some secret motive to it, like Frontiers kind of makes it, where she's all sad and sober and kind of feels weird and wants to do this, and then she wants to spread her love. Like, that's so fucking stupid. You know, Amy spreads her love in general. This is not a fucking new thing for Amy. Like, what the fuck is he doing with Amy? It's very dumb. There's even a scene in Sonic X Shadow Generations where they kind of take out Amy's love for Sonic and kind of makes it more this mutual friendship kind of thing, and it's still kept in the Japanese version, and they even change her lines, kind of make it like, Sonic, I'll owe you for this later, which doesn't make any fucking sense, because in the original line, Amy was like, Sonic, I knew you saved me, or she says something along those lines, where she kind of talks about how she loves Sonic and how Sonic saves her and how she loves him for that. But overall, they change it in the American side, but the Japanese keeps it the same, and they try to keep Amy's love still prominent, that Ian Flynn doesn't want to do, because Ian purposefully doesn't want to show this romantic interest, and I'll talk about that right now.
Well, this is going to be interesting. Are you and or Sega trying to hide Amy's affection for Sonic? I've seen people show concern at how aggressively it seems to be suppressed, to the point it feels like it's trying to be made out to be a secret, which people aren't keen on.
For my part, I just want it to not be her singular motivation, her singular personality trait, but it is part of who she is. So I feel like it should be acknowledged. But Sega is in general trying to skew away from open relationshipy stuff right now. I don't know if I'd call it suppressed, kind of a harsh word, but it's not the focal point right now.
Overall, I think I find this argument to be completely dumb, because this statement makes no sense. Amy is an adventurer in her own reason. She actually does adventuring for herself and does help people out because she wants to, and doesn't have to do it just because she wants to chase Sonic and that's it. No, that's only really specifying only that and exaggerating it to a very weird degree, which doesn't make any sense for Amy as a character. Because while Amy does chase after Sonic, Amy is also the type of person to focus on helping people because she's a caring person, and has always been a part of her, has never been lost in media or nothing like that. You just ignored it. The statement in itself that it's just a singular personality trait that she only has is literally shown in ignorance, Ian Flynn, because you actually don't know this character. It's very bad. And he thinks making this better is the idea of making her the responsible mom who takes care of everyone, makes sure everyone's okay, and maybe has a crush on Sonic, but I'm too shy to tell anyone. That's so fucking stupid. Because it seems like you forget what a 12-year-old anime girl would actually act like, because Amy actually acts like an anime 12-year-old girl, and you don't write her like that at all. Then the second one is what every Sonic fan who loves Ian Flynn, loves to praise him, will bring up, is the whole romance thing and how Sega basically quote-unquote restricted it, even though that's not actually true, because he actually says it in this statement right here, which actually contradicts it.
The whole goal with Amy's story in Frontiers was to bring it to some kind of end, because this whole will they, won't they, cat and mouse that we're never going to actually get an answer on felt antagonistic, not necessarily intentionally, but this constantly dangling carrot without any real commitment one way or the other. It's like, let's just have them move on in some way, do the characters a service so that there's more to them than just the, will they have kisses one day? Do something. And so part of it was Amy's resolve to share her love with the world, to not have her entire existence revolve around someone who's always running away from her. She has so much love to give. She has so much potential. Instead of focusing it on one person, give it to the world and see what a force she can be.
In this one, you can clearly see he tries to act like, oh, I was trying to fix the problem, which is that the whole thing is a cat and mouse dynamic where it goes back and forth, will they or will they, won't they have kisses or get together and blah 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 blah. And his whole goal was to basically get rid of that and basically clear it out. But as we know, Sega did not actually accept that, with Ian describing their dynamic as basically the idea of a cat and mouse being this back and forth that will have to end at some point, which has never been the case. The case is that it is a dynamic that Sonic and Amy specifically have. Like Sonic and Tails. Sonic is the older brother who always cheers on Tails and tries to say, Tails, you can do it. I believe in you because you're my friend. And just like with Knuckles, Sonic and Knuckles have this back and forth banter that they go back and forth with, or Sonic jokes about how stupid he is at times because he does stupid actions sometimes, or with Eggman where he talks to him like he's being very playful and playing around with him and having fun with the situation. With Amy, it's the same exact thing. It's with Amy, you are having this dynamic where Sonic is being chased by Amy and Amy has these strong feelings and she loves him for that, and Sonic kinda knows it and kinda does have feelings, but is kind of too aloof to actually go towards it. There's no physical reason for them to have an actual climax because of the simple fact they do not age. They do not actually change that dramatically, besides as a character just in general. They don't change in their romance and stuff like that, and Sega doesn't want that to end. That is why Sega told you not specifically to do it. And we can clearly see here you wanted to end the relationship entirely, which Sega was like, no, that's fucking stupid. The relationship is there, but it's supposed to be going on constantly because they are the same age and they do not age at all, and simply because of the fact that literally it is Sonic and Amy's dynamic as characters. I know your idea of dynamics with characters from Sonic's friends is to do banter back and forth with Sonic because they're all snarky and they're all funny and they're all so cute and so funny and so hilarious, and that's what you love, jokes. But no, that was never Sonic and Amy's dynamic, nor was it Tails and Sonic's dynamic, and it's barely Sonic and Knuckles dynamic if we're going by the Mega Drive Sonic. So again, you are just literally saying that you don't get this character enough, that you want to change it to make it fit your writing style, and because Sega wouldn't let you stop the romance in general, you're like, okay, I guess I have to keep it going. Because we see in Frontier, she still does have feelings for Sonic, because clearly they couldn't stop it because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Sega still wants these characters to be somewhat in character in Ian's continuity, but overall he can still do pretty much what he wants to some degree. Because what Ian is basically saying here is a female is not allowed to want to see her crush on a constant basis and maybe be a thing with her. Maybe if the crush is a little bit uncomfortable with it, sure, it could be a little bit weird, but overall it's just like it's a fun little friendly thing they do, and she can clearly calm down with it to some degree. She will show it off because she does like him, and he clearly maybe does with her, but she still wants to show it off because she likes this boy, and he's saying that, oh, you can't keep doing that, get together now or don't do it at all. And it's like, they know that they like each other, they just don't want to fucking deal with it right now. Why the fuck are you putting this pressure on them? And so, oh, she has no other depth besides that. She's just a simple girl who wants to chase a man, and that's all there is to her, which is fucking genuinely ignorant. And I generally think it makes no fucking sense for anyone to be treated that way, especially when a female like Amy is not even fucking doing that. She has her love for Sonic, and it is a part of her big drive, but she also is an adventurer. She loves seeing the world. She loves the greenery. She loves the animals. She does all this stuff. Even Sonic Prime takes this aspect and literally makes a story where Amy is the person protecting the forest to an extreme degree, because Amy is a caring person. She isn't the mother figure. She's a caring girl who just cares for the animals around her and the people around her and will help them no matter what happens. You make it seem like she has nothing going on outside of Sonic, and that's genuinely fucking stupid. And you really do nothing with her to make it any different. So shut up. And this idea of, oh, I'm gonna give it to the world instead of just Sonic, doesn't make any fucking sense. She's been doing that from the fucking beginning. SA1, nigga.
Alright, here's one from the Chow channel. So we know Sonic and Amy have a crush on each other in the canon, and we see a little bit of that in the comics. So will we see a potential relationship of these two in the books and maybe in the games?
Not to a great degree. The current direction, the mandate, if you will, is that we don't really get into romantic relationships, period. Which is interesting when that's like the key defining point between two characters, but that, silver lining, we get to focus on Sonic and Amy interacting in something beyond just the romantic angle. Let's see more of their dynamic, which is fine. We can work with that.
How dare Sega prevent Amy from going on her mandate? That's all she wants. They won't let her do it.
Also showing in this right here, he talks about how Sega doesn't really want romance going on right now, so we can't have that, because lately we don't do that, which generally makes no sense because there was no actual romantic stuff going on in the series before this. We knew Knuckles and Rouge may like each other and maybe want to fuck. We knew that maybe Sonic and Amy were going to get together and they kind of like each other and kind of in love with each other, but that was never just a thing that they were just going to do romance one day. No, that was never a point. Sonic and Amy went on a date maybe once in a while, but that was like just a once in a while thing. But overall, they weren't supposed to get into a relationship because that's not really the thing they do at all with Sega. They know that this is a banter that has to go on constantly, that is in character for them, and it is their character banter. And he says, oh, I want to expand them more. Instead of having Amy just chase Sonic, I want to see how they talk outside of that. You can do that, but actually fucking develop it instead of just switching to it automatically in IDW like a lazy bitch. I can tell you 100% it isn't that hard because Pariah did it. It's so easy. It's so easy. Someone else did it. I'm telling you, Ian, it's so easy. Just like in a Knuckles video. How do you get Knuckles to go out and adventure without the Master Emerald being the thing he protects? Just have the Master Emerald tell him to go do it. How does Azuka able to make this answer, but you couldn't do it simply in a couple days? Pariah does it easily with Amy. You can't even think of doing it in the basic of knowledge. Even if they were to be more friendly, Amy did calm more down, I'm pretty sure she would still make bantering ideas of them in a relationship, being like, Sonic, we will be cute together or something. You can have a new dynamic like that that's outside of it, showing off Sonic and Amy in their dynamic. You actually have to know who Amy is before you actually make decisions like that, which you can't right now, I'm telling you. I mean, even if you wanted to have a different perspective on how Sonic and Amy could be friends, you literally have all the Sonic stations where Sonic and Amy are more casually friends while still having romantic feelings for each other. Amy still shows it here while being a little bit more calmed down than I should agree to, but I still think it makes sense while Sonic also is able to grow his relationship with Amy by showing off how he feels about Amy too. Having them still have their equal banter, still talking like normally, just like in Sonic Frontiers in the Japanese. You see these people make the Japanese translations, why don't you look at them and actually study how they did it compared to how you wrote it? That's so simple and it's so easy, because you clearly write everyone out of character and you need to fix that, and you clearly can with Sega's help if you ask them to do it more, like Shadow Generations, way better than anything you've done before, besides the actual Sonic Generations part, which is actually what we have a problem with still. It's even shown so well that he doesn't understand Amy by the fact that in Sonic Frontier she talks about how, I'm not a damsel in distress anymore. You dumb fuck, she never was that. What the fuck are we talking about? SA2 is right there! I find this idea with Ian Flynn to be so dumb because people are like, you are suppressing Amy as a character, you're suppressing Amy and Sonic's dynamic, which is true, but the fact that after this in another interview, you just explained to us how you actually did want to suppress Amy and Sonic's dynamic by forcing them to be in a relationship when they don't need to right now, or really at all ever, because their thing is supposed to go on constantly forever. Sonic and Amy's dynamic is not supposed to be suppressed to the point where it's like, oh, we're in a relationship now, it's over now guys, no more chasing, no more this and that, they kiss now, blah 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 blah. It's clearly the idea that Ian Flynn loves Archie and loves writing Sonic having this romance with Sally and kissing up on her and being able to actually show relationships that he gets so stuck on it, to the fact that he doesn't understand that Sega has never actually intended that in their games. They may show off romance between two characters, but they actually never actually get into a relationship because that's not a thing for the Sonic characters to do. They are non-aging things who stay the same because it is their dynamic. As a writer writing for the Sonic stories with characters who actually do change, it does make sense for them to change, but you actually have to know how to do it and not act lazy like you do. Because for Sonic and Amy to really become very good and close friends to maybe have somewhat of a different dynamic, you have to actually know how they actually act in a normal dynamic and actually see it as a normal thing to actually develop. which I don't think you can do at all, Ian. I'm sorry. Also, seeing how Ian Flynn comments on Rouge the Bat just being kind of this sexual thing kind of shows me that Ian Flynn kind of has this weird thing when it comes to writing Rouge, Amy, and Cream to a degree where he really doesn't know what to do, can sometimes do it to a degree to actually get to the point.
Okay. All right. So let's pick over to Amy real quick. Since you brought her up, let me talk about Amy real quick. So one of the things one of the things I've always thought about when it comes to how you wrote Archie is that even with a lot of the other problems I have with it, one of the things I stand by and think that you did exceptionally well was how you wrote Amy. However, when it comes to this book, there have been a couple of things that have been raising my eyebrow in particular, and one of the things I was wondering about is with the Game Informer interview that you did, especially when it comes to what you were saying about with some of the female characters. So when it came to Amy in particular, you said that she was that it was kind of weird for her to be like one of the main female characters because she was too all over the place. What did you really mean? What did you mean by that?
Because let's look at her characterization from Adventures through to present day. Because in Adventure, she's an upbeat, plucky individual who learns to rely on herself, to find her own inner strength by the end of it. And that's great. That is a fantastic arc for her. And in Adventure 2, she's storming Prison Island by herself without Tails' help. Thank you very much. And she's a bit flirty with Sonic, and she's kind of gets left on the wayside, but she's still this thoughtful and heart-driven character. She's the one who gets Shadow to realize his mistakes and come around. Right there. Great evolution of the character. She could stand to be a little more active with the boys, but still, she has grown and shown that independence. Lovely. Then we get to Heroes, and she is like obsessed with Sonic. She's going to beat Sonic up in a boss fight, and he has to marry her. She's as worried about Chocolate. Big is missing his best friend, and she's still pining for Sonic. Oh, yeah, she'll help her friends too. It's a little weird. And then we get into Battle, where she is like training herself to the point of delusion so that she can be closer to Sonic. And it's like, girl, not so great. Chronicles, which isn't canon, but still was, part of that era. She's making up people to make Sonic jealous. And it's Sonic X, where she's this kind of hair trigger temper. She's cutesy and coy at this point, and now she's screamingly violent, and now she's flipping back again, where it can be funny, but it's also kind of like borderline bipolar.
Yeah.
And then you get to like Generations, where Sonic is holding her away at arm's length, like face palming her, but then they're closer buddies, and now she's kind of like one of the lead organizers within the Resistance and Forces. She's the one who's managing the files. She's manning the computer. She's organizing everybody in there. Knuckles may be commander, but she seems to be the one who's kind of keeping things in order. And it's like, which one is Amy? I mean, you can find a through line through there if you try, but she's been up and down all over the place. She has been emotionally extreme. She's been very sedate. She has been all over Sonic to unhealthy degrees. She's been a polite friend that respects boundaries. Where is the Amy?
So that I actually do all get if you're trying to take it as like every story is supposed to be like a continuation, and you're just looking at what the material is without taking into consideration anything else. That I do get. So, but I guess the question I would ask is, if you are clearly aware of the problems that she's had to this point, and I'm agreeing with you, those are problems, why not just take the characterization that you have with her and Archie, or even better, take something that, even better, just take her in a direction where it actually would be take like either the best parts or like a more fitting characterization that would work for the book, rather than, I guess, try to find a way to balance all of those, trying a way to balance all of those, if that makes sense.
Well, because with IDW Sonic, it was the new start. So all that came before is now moot. And Forces was the starting point to work from. And that was that was Amy. That's the character that we have to work with at the time. And that's not necessarily what Sega wants her character to be after Forces. So as they are figuring out who she is going forward, we're kind of trying to play catch up. I think Evan found a nice balance of the caring and compassionate, but also able to get things done Amy. That kind of SA1, SA2 with a little bit of Forces mixed in with that last arc she did with the forest fire. So I think that's a good place for her now, and that would be where we would probably grow from there.
Okay, so I actually have a really big problem with this part and what Ian talks about in this little part of the Bumblecast, because he kind of talks about Amy in kind of an inconsistent way, which kind of does push this idea where she is inconsistent in a way that is very weird, but I want to talk about it here because it seems fucking dumb to me. So starting off with how he describes Sonic Adventure 1, I can 100% agree that Amy is going through a development where she can be her own hero, where she can do things on her own, but she isn't having the same arc as Tails, because Tails' arc in SA1 is being able to do things on his own, not having to rely on Sonic. That is not Amy's goal here. Amy can do things on her own, but Amy yearns for adventure, and then throughout this adventure in SA1, she actually shows that she can actually go on adventures without Sonic. Doesn't mean that she totally doesn't fuck with Sonic at all, or isn't going to be around Sonic or be around Sonic as she used to be. No, she's still going to be around Sonic, but now she can go on adventures just like he does without him being around. He continues to say that she's an energetic, plucky individual who can use her own strength to go on these adventures and stuff like that, which is 100% true. But when he goes into his next point, he totally ignores the simple fact that this Amy is the same Amy from Sonic CD. She doesn't really change at all in that way of chasing Sonic in any way or anything like that. But let's not forget, in the first scene in Sonic CD, when she meets Sonic, she starts hugging up on him. Not because, oh, this just because it's the first time, it's the only time she does it. No, this is something she constantly will do. Just because we don't see it in other games, it's because she's in a race or she's doing a fighting game. So she can't just hug him casually in a cutscene, because most of these games don't really have cutscenes. If you need further proof this still happens, literally look at SA1. When Amy meets up with Sonic for the first time, she's like, yay! And then she walks over to Sonic, and what does Sonic do? Slowly back away, clearly showing that in Heroes, she is doing the same thing that Sonic is usually used to from Sonic CD, and we can see in SA1 that Sonic is a little uncomfortable by this, because this is something that Amy constantly did after Sonic CD. We may not have seen it in the game specifically, but clearly shown by Sonic's mannerisms and the context of the Sonic series, we can see that Amy still does this, and she has never stopped. And he kind of just throws it over the bow when he goes to fucking Sonic Heroes. So then we get to SA2, where he talks about how Amy stormed through Prison Island, quote unquote, by herself, which actually makes no sense, because in a later scene where she's talking to Sonic, she literally says that Tails helped me get here. So are you just trying to make it, oh, the girl boss did it by herself and she's so capable without Tails and like some dumb shit? Like, Tails literally helped her out. We literally see Tails breaking into Prison Island in the gameplay, because Tails is the main person doing this, and Amy is really nothing more right now than a girl who needs to be protected as a normal girl. Sonic and Tails don't know that Amy has these feats that she can do on her own, being her own unique adventurer or hero. But that's the thing, Sonic and Tails weren't around to see that. They were never there when Amy did that, nor were they there even in SA2, which we'll go into in a minute. Even in SA2, Amy calls herself a defenseless girl when Sonic and Tails literally walk away from her. Then he goes on to call her a girl who flirts with Sonic a little bit, but is also left to the wayside. But she's also a girl who has all this heart, but also that she also has her own independence, which is the main thing I have a problem with. Because yes, Amy is flirty, but that makes sense because Amy does outwardly show her emotions to Sonic, and it's shown in multiple games after this. When it comes to her heart, that's obvious. I already talked about this earlier, and I agree with this point on that aspect. Then he goes to the idea that Amy has quote-unquote independence, which is like dumb because she already had that before SA1. Nothing about SA1 said that she relied on Sonic in any way. They're again mistaking it for Tails. You expected that Amy's arc is the fact that, oh, she relied on chasing after Sonic and now she's independent from Sonic and she needs no man, but that's never been Amy at all. Amy has still been relying on Sonic even after SA2. We can clearly see that her flirting with Sonic is her her being literally still crushing on Sonic. This has never went away, and you're just assuming because Amy isn't over here hugging him all the time, when especially in these situations it's not really needed, but it could be there if we really wanted it to. And when we go into Heroes, it still continues your point, but you're still contradicting yourself in that. Let's not forget, in Sonic CD, she didn't come to Little Planet because Sonic was there, quote unquote. The cards told her that she will literally be in danger and that there is some type of knight that may be there. There was no ever insinuation that Amy went there because of Sonic specifically. She didn't know Sonic before this point. She found out about Sonic when going to Little Planet. That's the difference. You're kind of just assuming that Amy wasn't an individual before this point, where she was. She liked tarot cards. She was a normal girl doing normal girl things before this. When she met Sonic, she then gained this adventurous spirit, which is what continues on throughout the rest of the series. Nothing about her changes besides that in SA1. Because we're also ignoring Sonic the Fighters, where she's literally protecting one of the emeralds. We also ignore Sonic R, where she's racing with everyone. We clearly ignore Sonic Drift, where Amy is clearly in a game of competition here, to say that, oh, she's just relying on Sonic, and it's not because she has a crush on him and she wants to see him once in a while, which I've already showed you in Sonic Colors on the DS. She is literally worn out because she hasn't seen Sonic in so long. And then he goes on to say she can deserve to be more active in the relationship with other boys, which is short, but that's clearly showing your actual reliance on she needs to be like the boys, she needs to be stronger like the boys, which is not needed at all, and it makes no sense for Amy as a character being a normal girl. You kind of ignore that aspect in general, so I kind of believe that you would say this. Now, going into Heroes, this is the most stupidest and ignorant thing I've ever heard in my life. She talks about how Amy's just obsessed with Sonic now, while Cream and Big are worried about their friends, stuff like that. Amy's like, oh, I'll help you somewhat with that, but I'm mostly focused on Sonic, which is not fucking true. Have you played the fucking game? This idiot only brings up the singular aspect, like a lot of Sonic fans do. He brings up the singular aspect where Amy's like, Sonic, you're going to marry me after this fight, which clearly shows Ian Flynn has never played a fucking fighting game in his fucking life, because you're genuinely that dense to not see that that's clearly just fighting game dialogue between Amy and Sonic. You know what fighting game dialogue usually is. I don't know if you played Dragon Ball FighterZ, but in Dragon Ball FighterZ, Goku says some similar lines to something that would be an interaction between him and this character. This happens with everyone in every fighting game when they have a character dynamic. So why is it so weird for Amy to do the same thing, where Amy's like, I don't want to be flirted with, and then Vector's like, what the fuck are you talking about, you dumbass broad? And then Charmy's like, fight, fight, fight. Clearly showing this is fucking fighting game dialogue, obviously. Amy clearly isn't being serious in this situation. Like I said before, Sonic says this.
Amy, いい加減にしろよ。今お前と遊んでる場合じゃないんだ。
And then we also have literally that after this, Amy says we need to chase Sonic because he leads us to Eggman. So it clearly shows that you haven't played the game yourself to actually understand what the fuck the context is. Sure, does Amy want to see Sonic? Sure, but that's not even the fucking main point in the beginning of the fucking game. Look at the beginning of the game. Amy is literally like, oh Sonic, I wish I could see you right now, because Sonic is literally on the fucking newspaper being framed for stealing Chocola and Froggy. Fucking play the game. What the fuck are we talking about here? Literally, Sonic takes Chocola and Froggy by Amy's perspective, and Cream and Big call Sonic out for this, and Amy does this as some type of competition to kind of show off her strength and show off how capable she is. But of course it doesn't really work, because we even see that Cream says that Sonic fakes this to leave. Sonic doesn't see Amy be a great girl or anything like that. He just sees that Amy was kind of doing this and kind of playing around. Sonic sees Amy as kind of playing around in this situation because Sonic and Tails and Knuckles need to go and fight Eggman. And the fucking main thing is that in this entire fucking game, she never mentions Sonic until the end. When the goal is done, she mentions Sonic and goes to chase after him. You can even see when they beat the fake Eggman, she isn't like, oh, where's Sonic? No, she's focused on defeating Dr. Eggman. The only thing that she maybe does to mention Sonic is that she blames Dr. Eggman for her and Sonic not being together, which to some degree you can actually agree to, because Eggman is person being literally in the fucking way, destroying shit and getting on Sonic's nerves, making him have to go on adventures to get him. It's not contradicting anything, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Amy in CD was still hugging up on Sonic, and we even see in SA1 that Sonic and Tails weren't really paying attention to Amy at all. And we can even see it in SA2, no paying attention to Amy at all. She wouldn't have said this scene if it wasn't for that. Amy wanting to hug up on Sonic and stuff like that and talk to him is what she literally does in SA1 and SA2, and she even does it in other games. Just because Sonic runs away does not mean that Amy is not doing these actions that she did in previous games. In Sonic Heroes, she is clearly on a mission, and she is clearly flirting with Sonic, as we can see by what Sonic says, and we can see clearly by how Amy is still focused on the mission at hand throughout the rest of the game. It seems like you fucking purposefully ignored it to be ignorant and to make this point. So then we get to Sonic Battle, which surprisingly I actually kind of agree on, because even Pariah says in his video, he says stuff like this.
And this is where I'm just gonna take some time to talk about this whole deal with Amy, because a lot of people rightfully have issue with how Amy is written in this game. I mean, of course, Amy's love for Sonic has always been a thing, and treating it as a joke is nothing new for the Sonic games. You know, in Sonic Heroes, they basically made a joke out of Amy's feelings for Sonic as well. But in this game, they really take that to a very weird and extreme degree, where she just seems like some sort of obsessed weirdo freak stalker. The fact that she would go to such leaps of logic in order to make up this scenario in her head where she convinces herself that Sonic is gonna get married to her and that Emerald is it's fucking stupid. And this is one of those things where it falls in the category of, like, I don't know if this was supposed to be, like, we're just gonna BS justify Amy's story scenarios here in crappy, stupid fighting game ways, or are we actually supposed to take this seriously? Again, I don't really know. This is actually fairly similar to how she's written in Sonic X, actually. In that show, she is super goo-goo gaga for Sonic all the time, always talking about her love for Sonic and how girly she is, and oh, Sonic, I love him so much. And that's also where the idea of her temper is introduced, where anytime anyone starts to question her love for Sonic or his love for her or whatever, she gets all pissed and whatever, and that's not really been a part of Amy's character anytime previously to Sonic Battle and Sonic X. It did show up once as a joke in Sonic Heroes, but that's it. And I mean, it fits Amy's character in terms of, like, wanting to turn her love into Sonic into a joke. Yeah, sure, she gets jealous and that gets exaggerated into, like, this angry rage that she gets into anytime someone dare try to question or get in the way of her and Sonic's love that absolutely exists or whatever. Certainly not my favorite way of writing Amy that they've ever done, but to be honest, I don't absolutely hate these ideas inherently. The issue is that things like Sonic X and Sonic Battle kind of reduce Amy's character to just that, whereas in other Sonic games, like Sonic Adventure 1, 2, and Heroes, Amy wasn't just the girl that's in love with Sonic. You know, there was more to her character than that. But in something like Sonic Battle, that really is all she is, and she kind of just comes across as like a weirdo stalker. So not exactly great, and we're gonna run into more of that stuff when we get to Amy's story, but...
Which I ultimately agree on, as I talked about earlier in my video, where X-Amy and Battle Amy to some degree are very much more obsessed with Sonic. Not in a stalker way, I wouldn't say stalker way, but they have a very deep love for Sonic, and it can be a lot. And I don't think that that's a healthy thing for Amy to do, and you can kind of not like her or think it's too much, and I agree. But that becomes a different debate on how much should we push that idea. I think that overall in Sonic Heroes it's done way better, where Amy's just like, you'll be marrying me, kind of jokingly in a fighting game way. But with Amy in Battle, it is kind of iffy back and forth if she is doing this, and then she is mostly just focused on Sonic and different stuff like that, with her whole goal just being like a giant fucking stretch. I can't lie, it's a giant fucking stretch. It's not normal. Overall, it could just be for a gag, and I assume it's mostly a gag, because even at the end you see that Amy's like, will you marry me now, Sonic? And then Sonic's like, close your eyes, Amy. And then she closes her eyes and he's gone. And it clearly shows that, like, Sonic isn't comfortable with this, but Amy says, like, he's shy, but, like, she's right. But also it's like he is definitely uncomfortable with this, so he's kind of gone. He's kind of dipped. Overall, I don't think that Battle Amy is just that, because Pariah says she's just that, just obsessed with Sonic. I don't think that's true. I think that Amy also does want to get stronger for herself and also to protect Emerald. But then she sees later on that Emerald's growing up, kind of showing that motherly protection is kind of something that goes away after a while, after your child has grown up and stuff like that, trying to go with that idea. But overall, I just think that Amy here is a little bit too much, and she's overall assuming from a lot. But I don't think that overall makes Amy this character who's just obsessed with Sonic and that's just what it is. Like, no, Battle's a little bit of the odd one out, but not too much. It's basically just Sonic X Amy, which Pariah does go into a little bit here, which I do actually agree that X Amy is a little bit too much, but she still does have those Amy qualities and stuff like that. And even in X, Amy only really gets angry at mostly justifiable reasons, and you can kind of see the comedic take to it too, which I think works for both of these games, but also just shows that Amy isn't like angry just because she's angry. No, she gets angry at certain times because of certain reasons. And then he talks about the idea in Sonic Chronicles where Amy tries to fake a boy to get Sonic jealous, which is not a bad thing, nor is it not a thing that isn't done at all, because a lot of girls and boys do this, where if a boy is jealous and he sees that the girl is talking to someone else, he'll try to be like, oh, I have this girl with me too, and the girl will do the same thing retroactively. Literally in Yorosai Yatsuda in the last episode, Loom and Otoro literally do this. It is clearly showing that this inspiration is not out of nowhere, and also because it's going to happen. Boys and girls do it. It has nothing to do specifically with Amy being weird. Just because Amy is literally doing it to make Sonic jealous does not make it somehow some weird thing that Amy should never do. No, she's a girl who has a crush on a boy, and she believes that she has a boyfriend so she can kind of impress Sonic and get Sonic to be a little jealous, and he really doesn't care, I'm pretty sure, in Chronicles, and it's just the thing that Amy does to kind of show off her love for Sonic. It's nothing bad, and it's nothing really out of character, especially when you know what Amy's influences are. Okay, now what he talks about with Sonic X, where Amy is kind of this very quiet, shy girl, and then she goes to being super angry, and he calls it bipolar, which I am like genuinely fucking confused by, because that's fucking weird. Amy in Sonic X has mostly only gotten angry when someone calls out her and Sonic's relationship, when someone literally makes fun of her, when someone's literally fucking with her, and stuff like that. Amy does not just get angry because she can get angry. No, in Sonic Battle and in Sonic X, in certain games like that, they do show off this aspect of Amy where she gets angry when people talk about or try to get with Sonic. Also gets angry in stuff like Sonic Riders and different episodes of Sonic X, where she just gets angry because people are genuinely fucking with her, not because she's just angry and she's bipolar, which sounds very fucking sexist, because in Sonic X, Knuckles gets fucking pissed off on a dime no matter what happens. Oh, but it's justified because of the Master Emerald, or because this is happening with the Chaos Emeralds and blah, 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 blah. That's the same fucking thing for Amy. That's kind of fucking sexist in my opinion, that you think that Amy can't do it but Knuckles can do it, when Knuckles is the one getting mainly fucking mad all the fucking time. Oh, Sonic and the gang take Knuckles' Emerald. Hey, you shouldn't do that. Eggman's like, Sonic's the reason why we can't go back to our home planet, and then Knuckles like, you can't fucking do that, and then we literally get him in the fucking Metarex arc where fucking he's like, we gotta trust Eggman. Sonic's like, no, that's kind of dumb, and then everyone's like, that's kind of dumb, and Knuckles gets mad like, I gotta fight you, Sonic, grr. Like, that's the fucking same thing. We're just kind of being a little bit fucking sexist here. Like, Knuckles is known to have a short temper. Before this, we really didn't know Amy had a short temper, but yeah, this is something that they added to Amy's character just for a comedic effect. It's made for a comedic effect to be very funny and just to show off how much energy and how open Amy is with her actual emotions. Because unlike what you do, Ian Flynn, where Amy's just this introverted, I'm so shy kind of person, but I'll flirt sometimes because I'm kind of cute, to then having this Amy that's actually extroverted, very happy-go-lucky, very charming, very adventurous, and we just got the concerned mother who's kind of introverted and kind of has a crush on Sonic, but he can't say anything because Ian Flynn wants it to end for some fucking dumbass reason. So then he talks about Generations, where Sonic is holding Amy at arm's length by her face. That's just a joke. Everyone keeps saying that that's so weird that they changed that in Sonic Generations, but it's fucking normal. It's supposed to be a joke that Sonic is like, Amy's trying to hug up on him, and Sonic's like, no, don't do that. And then that's fine. Like, I don't think there's any fucking problem with it if you actually understand the comedic angle with Amy. Like, I know Ian loves to make jokes with Knuckles, but he doesn't want to do it with Amy because Amy's not allowed to be angry anyway. It's just kind of sexist, but overall, fucking stupid. And then he calls Amy the lead organizer in Sonic Forces, which, where the fuck did you get that from? What the fuck are you playing? The fuck? What? Literally all Amy does in the game is fucking type on a computer and find some fucking files. What the fuck? Anyone could fucking do that in that fucking room. Amy doesn't even fucking take lead or anything. She doesn't take any charge. And I can clearly see here, this is where he gets this weird ass fucking idea for Amy being the Nick Fury. Because where the fuck does that even come from? Like, what the fuck? Like, she types on the computer and that makes her the fucking lead organizer of the fucking group. What the fuck? You just fucking stupid? This fucking game has nothing going on in organization at all. All we know is that Knuckles the leader. Knuckles doesn't say, Amy, our organizer, did this. No, you're literally fucking assuming. Nothing in that original Japanese script says anything about Amy being some fucking organizer. You are genuinely just making stuff up and pushing it because you think you like it. And then Ian in Generations assumes that Amy is closer to Sonic now, which not fucking really. And no game does Amy ever really get closer to Sonic in any single way. Again, you're mostly just assuming like you did in Forces. And who the fuck really thought Knuckles was a leader? That motherfucker can't lead a fucking rock. Let's fucking be honest. He even says that Amy's organizing everyone in there. What the fuck? Where the fuck is this in any of the game? What the fuck is he talking? Amy barely has any fucking dialogue in the entire fucking game. The only thing she says is, man, I'm so sad that Sonic is gone. Oh, Sonic is back. Oh, yay. And that's it. So clearly she acts like Amy from earlier games, but we're kind of ignoring that to make her this fucking organizer who's taking care of the entire resistance. When the fuck? Yo, I'm sorry, this nigga just stretched that shit out so fucking wide. This fucking asshole's gaping right now, pause. He says that she's clearly keeping everyone in order, which is not true. If anything, the Chaotix are keeping everyone in order. Wasn't the Chaotix the one to find intel on Sonic? Wasn't literally the Chaotix the one to bring the rookie in? Aren't they the ones technically keeping it undermatched? Isn't the Chaotix the one kind of helping everyone in your own comic, helping everyone get together and actually refute against this rebellion? Aren't they the ones helping everyone else? What the? You put this in your comic, what the fuck? What? What? So then he talks about there being some kind of through line with Amy, but it's not enough because she feels so inconsistent, which is actually a lie, as I've already explained throughout this entire video. Most of these traits can just be said to be split into basically two characters, if we're not going by the 2010s, because I don't count that shit at all. But overall, Amy has been fairly consistent. Nothing really changes beside the fact that she's just a little bit more uppity against Sonic, and that she's also just a little bit more, you know, girly and different stuff like that. Amy's short temper is still a part of the game Amy, and it's still there, and it's still something that exists. Now, I did say earlier that if you do think that Amy going at Sonic in these different ways can be a lot, that is agreeable and we can have a conversation about that. But overall, how Ian talks about it, he really talks about it as if she needs to be a blank slate who has nothing going on because girls with emotions don't need to exist. Literally in this whole thing, which I originally got this video from, was a reply to the original article which was talking about Rouge and everything. They're like, oh, this answers the questions, which really doesn't. It only answers for Amy, but is also does not make logical sense in what's happening in the games. With Sonic and Amy have a mutual feeling for each other, and their dynamic is something based off of Urusei Yatsura, which Ian knows nothing about because he actually doesn't know anything in research about these Sonic characters at all outside of the American side. Because with Amy and Sonic, their dynamic is never actually supposed to end. Because Urusei Yatsura, it's the whole idea of living your life through youth, as said in this video right here.
And it's because of his lifestyle, how he's always fast paced, and because he's never really had this experience before with a girl fully into him, since most of the time he's always been rejected. But for him, that is completely normal, as it's this demonstration that he's not really committed into having an actual relationship, since he really does want to enjoy his life till the very end, as the youth isn't going to last forever, and he probably is fully aware of this, which is why he's always doing a bunch of crazy things. It's because he wants to enjoy every moment, no matter how insane his actions is. As long as he's living at the moment, that's all that matters. But here we see that Arthur starts to realize, ever since Lum became part of his life, he's been experiencing things that he never thought would experience, whether it's special feelings for someone that he at first didn't seem to be interested in, but now that's not the case. It makes him realize that he in fact took Lum for granted.
It shows these ideas that Sonic and Amy are supposed to be doing this forever because they are young. They will never age, of course, but they are young. They're going to be going on these adventures together forever. Amy and Sonic's relationship isn't that they'll do kisses and get into a relationship, because that's not how this fucking works. If you watch Urusei Yatsura, the story is always the fact that this is a constant go on, where it's very episodic, where these characters don't age, but they go through human developments. Sonic and Amy's development, again, can grow, but if we look at Urusei Yatsura, it will still stay fundamentally the same. You know nothing about Japanese media to actually know how these characters should be represented. Like how I mentioned earlier about the positive-go-lucky heart characters, and I gave you all these examples in the video. It's clearly supposed to show that Amy is a character just like them, taking even different aspects from all of them, and you can take other aspects from them too. But if we're taking stuff like Amy is shy, and Amy may have a crush on Sonic, but she can't say it right now because Ian wants them to be in a relationship, which makes no sense. This is the Urusei Yatsura relationship of the entire series. Amy and Sonic are a couple, but they are not that type of couple. People kind of have this idea that Amy is supposed to be the character who wants to settle down and get married and never go on an adventure again in his life, and Sonic will never be like that. They do talk about how if Amy and Sonic got together, it would be something, but Oshima says it's because Sonic has the heart of a boy. Sonic does not understand that Amy also wants to go on these adventures and wants to do the same thing as Sonic, because Sonic and Amy has never had that conversation yet. But even then, Sonic and Amy's dynamic, if they did calm her down, quote unquote, or got her to be more friends with Sonic, she would not stop saying that she loves him. She would not stop expressing her love as much as she can. She would not stop being Amy as she is. You forget, Amy did that in SA1 and SA2 where she's kind of flirting with Sonic, and she does it in Heroes when she's kind of flirting. Amy and Sonic's love is not the only thing that Amy and Sonic have, that's just the way that you depict it. In most of the games, that is something that is a part of what Amy and Sonic has, and you clearly show to not actually know what's actually happening there. With Amy and Sonic being this cat and mouse all the time, it is made to represent the ideas that these characters are totally in love and will never ever stop their dynamic. No matter how close Sonic gets to Amy, no matter how close Amy gets to Sonic and becomes more friends, they are still going to be in love with each other, and they are still going to chase each other and do the same things they do. Because Sonic and Amy in a relationship is just this. Their relationship does not need to be said with words. Their relationship does not have to be said explicitly out. Like Yurusai Yasuda shows at the end of the episode, everyone's like, are you going to keep doing this over and over again? And Lou literally says, yep, because she loves him. Again, they love each other so much, but just like how Otaro is still a boy, he can't actually show how much he actually loves Loom. He has to show it by his actions, not by his actual words. And this is what the whole story is about, and this is what Sonic and Amy's story is about. It is about this everlasting love of two adventurers who are happy-go-lucky, energetic, and have a little bit of an attitude and a little bit of a short temper. That is what Sonic and Amy kind of balance each other out with. They are these characters who are these adventurers, so they are kind of connected in this way where Sonic does have feelings for Amy and Amy does have feelings for Sonic. Sonic is just more uncomfortable in the idea, while Amy is more open and happy for the idea. But overall, it just kind of shows that Ian Flynn really does take this just from an American point of view and doesn't really understand what is happening in the stories themselves. And I find it to be very bad. But overall, he kind of has this comic book writer mentality where he has to do a certain idea with female characters in comic books and different stuff like that, which I really don't like. And I would say if you want to see something about that, I would say to go watch Literature Devil's video on Western comics versus manga in the East. Because while it isn't 100% about Amy, it does kind of give the dilemma of how Ian Flynn kind of thinks to some degree on these certain characters, where the idea of someone being genuinely feminine to a very strong degree isn't that much prominent in how they do things. Like Amy being very much like a normal girl and being kind of very girly with how she dresses and stuff like that, it shows that Ian kind of doesn't really respect that type of stuff. Manga, if anything, will overly exaggerate and show it to the best idea with females and different stuff like that while having them be good characters, just like Amy. Amy is a good character who has good stuff going on while being a girly girl. He wants to make her the protective, mature mom who does everything right and who wants to make sure everyone's okay, and that's it, because she's so caring, and that's it. And there's nothing else to Amy like being a little girl. There's nothing about her wanting to go on adventures. There's nothing about her, you know, wanting to explore the world and help people out and different stuff like that. No, she's just a caring person, so she cares for everyone. She also has this big responsibility that gives her a headache, and she's a mother and blah 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 blah. When that doesn't make any sense for Amy as a character, and it never did, and it shouldn't be there at all, but somehow he doesn't understand these ideas. It is going stuff about female superheroes wanting to have justice for them and females, different stuff like that, trying to be political and different stuff like that, and trying to make it obvious and not trying to make a story out of it, but just trying to make it very more, trying to make it the idea of showing off and explaining this different stuff that has to do with politically how we try to get justice for people instead of trying to have them be genuinely in character and have them be genuinely interesting characters, and how unique they are in being a female and how it can push the stories because people enjoy them for their character, not because they're female. Because at this point, Ian Flynn really does just make Amy the girl, because the only thing she does here is be the girl who's also strong like Knuckles so she can hang out with the boys, instead of being a normal girl who can be weak and can still hang out with Sonic and them as long as she shows off her adventurous side. It's also even weird in IDW to some degree, because at times she can destroy big giant ass robots, but at other times she can barely take out a mini boss if they don't feel like doing it for that narrative. And I think it's fucking weird, and Ian Flynn really does need to get his shit together and really understand what Amy is about to a fundamental degree to actually make something good with Amy instead of making whatever bullshit he made in Frontiers. Because overall right now, I'm not gonna lie, I think Amy's just a fucking very boring character how Ian Flynn writes her, and she's not really interesting as she was back in the olden days where she had different stuff like that. If you want to see Amy more in character and being her charming self, you can go and watch my favorite things, Sonic and Tails R, or the story with Pariah where he actually does make the Sonic writer story for the 3rd game, and it's actually really good, and it has Amy actually have an impact in the story being Amy and also chasing Sonic along the way. I know it's so hard to do that nowadays, but it's a thing that Amy does, and it can be done very well, and even to some degree in the writer's arc it does come back there, but again, it is very hard for Ian to do it, and I kind of think it kind of starts this idea that a lot of Sonic fans go with Amy, which is the stalker idea, and changing it because it's quote-unquote better. But overall, I think Amy as a character right now is really just at a very low point at this point, because Amy as a character really had so much going on and has so much going on with Sonic in them, and now in this new era all the fans are either being toxic about how people love Amy for being Amy, or they're even mischaracterizing Amy by calling Amy a stalker, calling Amy a weirdo, calling Amy this bad person like she's fundamentally the most crazy person ever, like it was said back in the 2000s, which was never actually true. The dub sometimes maybe made it seem weird, and sometimes people just took it to that exaggeration to the point, and to some degree I can see that Sonic X did do a little bit to the extreme of Amy and Sonic's relationship, to the point where it was a little bit weird and a little bit too much compared to the games where Amy was a little bit more dialed down. And maybe Sonic Bell to a degree, she does a little bit of weird stuff there, but overall she still feels like Amy. She's never really overly displayed as this super stalker who's just always stalking Sonic and just being this weirdo, and we kind of make that very hypocritical because people are like, oh, she's always chasing Sonic. So did fucking Tails in Sonic 2. That was literally his whole thing. People really seem like hypocrites and are really being kind of sexist, and it's fucking weird to me. Some people say that Amy in Sonic Heroes is a different character from SA1, which makes no fucking sense. She still was chasing after Sonic after that because that's still the thing she does. In Sonic Heroes, she is still doing her own thing and has her own drive. The only thing these fucking idiots have in their mind is the fact that in Heroes she was like, Sonic, there's no way of getting out of marrying me, but that didn't make any fucking sense then, and it makes no fucking sense now, especially when in SA2 that was their same banter. It makes no fucking sense, and people generally don't understand what Amy was as a character, and they'll generally take a fucking blank slate made by Ian Flynn because it works better for making Amy not a stalker, or calming down Amy, or making Amy have character development, which makes no fucking sense because Amy never had character development in IDW or anything Ian Flynn has ever made. There was nothing in Forces, there was nothing in Sonic Generations, there was nothing in these stories that actually made Amy have a character arc that actually naturally made her Sonic's friend. None of this shit exists, and everyone is making shit up because they're that fucking stupid and that fucking ignorant to a female chasing after a guy because a female's doing it. If a dude does it, it's fine because it's a dude, but if a female does it, it's so fucking sexist and fucking weird to me. Because Amy as a character has a great heart, has a great character, and I love her in comparison to stuff like Uraraka, Mako, and different stuff like that, where these female characters have this big heart and is the biggest impact they have, and we can actually adore that and admire that and maybe get inspired by that. But people want to have these fucking characters who are just fucking boring and just do fucking quips because it's cool and because it's fun and because it has hype moments and aura, as the kids say, or some dumb fucking shit. I really don't like this stupid idea with Amy, and I am getting so angry because of the fact that I have been seeing lately that people have been kind of getting sexist stuff on Twitter because of the fact that Amy is a girl and they like Amy as a character and don't think Amy is some crazy stalker and will do whatever they can to defend her because she's an important character that girls inspire to be like. Amy is a girl and people inspire to be like Amy, even in her ideas of chasing Sonic, because it shows how her lasting impact of love and how much she will stay in that impact and how much she does love Sonic as much as we do, or maybe even more, and how she has a deep connection to Sonic that we maybe can have someday, and how Amy as a normal girl literally represents everyone as a normal person in this world. And if we're able to hang out with Sonic being as normal as we are, so can Amy. I know people hate Chris Thorndike and all this shit, then why don't you accept Amy? Amy, a normal girl who has no special abilities, who likes tarot cards and dowsing, who goes on adventures with Sonic while not being as capable as him, but finds her own ways to go on adventures and actually help out. Or like how it is with Amy in IDW, where IDW she's just, oh, I'm a responsible person who wants to help people, who wants to do these things because I'm a responsible mother, and also I'm responsible and I care for these people, but I also really don't do anything else outside of that, and I really have no real emotion because I'm either sad and sober, or I'm just happy, cheery-go-lucky, kind of, or I'm just kind of happy to be here but also be a responsible mother. That's really all you fucking get from Amy, and I feel like this is the greatest exaggeration of literal hypocrisy and literal ignorance with these people, because they generally think that Amy is just some weirdo female who's just a female and she's very weird and she needed to be changed, like females need to change from their personality just because we don't like it. I don't see you doing this with multiple other anime characters who have the same character trait as Amy with less depth to it. It makes no common sense, and it even ignores the creators who actually adore Amy and actually adored Amy for a while. There was even one thing where someone actually made a fake Sonic channel thing that, oh yeah, we went a little too far with the Amy thing, and we even found out and debunked that that shit didn't even fucking exist. That's how fucking crazy and fucking sexist and fucking hypocritical we are to say that on Amy's character, that we had to make up that the creators didn't like Amy or thought it was too extreme with Amy, so this fix with Ian Flynn was way better, because people generally like to defend Ian Flynn to a degree which is fucking unhealthy, to the point where it's even fucking sexist to some degree. I'm not gonna say everyone who does it is fucking sexist, but some of you are, and I'm fucking telling you it right now. And I'm telling you this as a male who isn't really into the whole idea of like feminine stuff and like that, but I can see when it's fucking dumb and it's fucking an injustice that shouldn't be here at all, and everyone's just being a single hypocrite about a female hedgehog who just wants to have fun with a hedgehog she likes and also just wants to go on adventures, and it kind of fucking pisses me off, because the same thing happens with Knuckles, the same thing happens with Tails, the same thing happens with Eggman, the same thing happens with Sonic, and it pisses me the fuck off that we have stuff like this. Now, to give Ian Flynn some laid down, pat on the back kind of thing, he's never said he was doing these characters in character, so it's okay. Maybe that Silver comment was something about that, but don't worry about that, we'll shove that off until we get to Silver. But overall, Ian Flynn has never really stated anything like this. It's just all you fucking sexist people want to keep saying, oh, I don't like this female being this way, so she have to change her so she can be a better female for me, when it's like, dude, calm the fuck down, shut the fuck up, and actually understand who Amy is as a character before you actually try to make some dumb comment like that, and then try to say, oh, see, I got my post supported here by this person who literally made this shit the fuck up. You were genuinely that ignorant to Amy that you really had to take a fake screenshot of something that didn't exist to make your point valid, because you genuinely want to hate Amy that bad in her original characterization. If you like different versions of Amy, that's fine with me, but don't act like this fucking character was a fucking stalker and a fucking weirdo, cause you like a fucking bland piece of fucking wood. I'ma call it a bland piece of fucking wood cause it's fucking boring as hell. I'm sorry if I'm sounding very mad, but I'm just very mad for people who have to get harassed for this shit, and Amy has a character who has to get harassed for this shit. It makes no sense to me, and it's fucking very annoying, and I really hope that a lot of you shut the fuck up and learn to be better. But overall, that's all I gotta say about Amy right now. I enjoy Amy as a character. She brings so much passion out of me clearly from this, even though I really don't say she's one of my strongest characters. She's probably like my top 10 maybe. I don't know where in the top 10, but she could probably be even further than that, but I don't know just right now. I think she's maybe in the top 5 or the top 10. I'm not sure right now. Maybe I'll tell you more later on, but I just like all these Sonic characters and think they have some interesting things going on with them, and there are some I don't like that much, but I still accept because they're just fun characters. But Amy has so much going on with her, between her and her dynamic with Sonic, that gets so misinterpreted that people get harassed for it, and I think it's very dumb. And going back to Fukuda Hoseki, which is what this video was supposed to be based off of, she literally got harassed for saying that Sonic was an introvert and believing that Sonic was an introvert, with her own research being done from studies and different stuff like that to actually show off this idea. And then she got a whole video basically bashing her over this fact that she had to go into hiding, and then she basically deleted all her stuff when she came back, because we had fucking dickheads doing shit like this all the time, just being ignorant fucks who just want to say, no, it actually makes no sense, where most of their fucking points are fucking stupid and have no actual fucking point or valid point to it. It's so fucking bad that we have Sonic fans who do racist shit, sexist shit, and do this shit casually like it's normal. I'm not gonna get political or some dumb shit, but it's really dumb when we do dumb shit like this when we're in a fandom when it's about a kid's cartoon that has anime aspects to it, and people have to get bashed for liking the Japanese version. I just think overall it's generally fucking dumb, and it generally needs to fucking stop overall. But I'm gonna calm down and I'm gonna get back to what I was saying about Amy. I love Amy and I love Amy's heart, and everything about her is just super great, and I would like for you guys to have a new appreciation from Amy from this video. And we finally finished every classic character that I'm going to review, at least lately, besides maybe 3 others. Maybe I'm debating on it, we'll see, but we got through most of the main classic characters at least. So I hope you guys have a good day, have a good night wherever I upload this shit, because I know I'm very inconsistent with it. I'm sorry. Get ready for the gameplay, the next character, and the Sonic deconstruction or whatever is next, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.